If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 101, Understanding. Grimm's Mindscape. Sigh. I know you can hear me, Grimm. Honestly, it's your fault for not taking this fight seriously enough. If you had used that thing earlier on, then you wouldn't be in such a predicament now, would you? I know, you just wanted to have some fun, right? But is this really how you want to win? By letting your instincts take over? Can you really accept a victory like that? Can you even enjoy a fight like that? Well, what do I know? It's not like I have several lifetimes worth of experience or anything. Sigh. Getting tired of not receiving an answer, the tone in King's voice suddenly changed. Grimm. I chose this world because I knew I could shine in it, as my avatar/representative. This is fucking embarrassing. So wake the fuck up and win already. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Unleashing copious amounts of mana, blue radiance poured out of Grimm's body, creating a giant spectacle that stunned Langris and the viewers all over the Clover Kingdom. How magnificent! Julius cried with stars shining in his eyes. This mana, it's way more than a captain's. I think it might even be more than Sir Julius himself. Watching Grimm's small figure bathing in that blue light, the magic knights present at the moment had complicated feelings in their hearts. While they despised Grimm for his arrogance, they had to admit that they were not his opponents. And seeing his mana amount right now, well, it was a hard pill to swallow. But just as they were about to expect something grand to happen, that blue light suddenly vanished without a trace. Standing in the middle of the battlefield, rubbing the back of his neck, Grimm let out a long yawn and stretched his arms into the air. He's moving. Impossible. He was on the verge of losing consciousness. While all the magic knights were in shock over Grimm's ability to still move, somewhere in the Clover Kingdom a ginger-haired woman smirked at what she was seeing. You were able to land a blow on me, losing to this brat ain't allowed. A/N, for all you Mirioliana lovers out there. Just as he was about to lose himself to his instincts, the voice of King had snapped him out of his half-conscious state and brought him to reality. After taking all of Langris's attacks and having his movements dulled by fragile snow magic, his loss had been cemented. But they made a mistake. Once they saw him falling, they hesitated. And that hesitation was all that Grimm needed. A/N, FYI, when fighting Grimm, don't stop attacking until you're sure that he's dead. In his excitement for facing off against an offensive spatial magic user for the first time, he had allowed himself to be cornered and pressured. But only under extreme pressure can one surpass their limits and stimulate their potential. So in that instance where he was pushed to the edge and fell unconscious, 2 changes took place in Grimm's body. The first was his fight or flight instincts stimulated by his breath of the beast base. The second was the phenomenon known as him achieving accelerated growth. By having his body put under such extreme pressure, he naturally broke his physical limits, and both his grimoire and mana responded to this by giving him a new spell. A/N, best way to think about this is to compare Grimm to Garu from One Punch Man. Seriously though, how am I getting new magic for water but not thunder? Was it because I was using water when I lost consciousness? While Grimm was still in a state of understanding what had happened to his body, Langris had let out another roar of laughter as he felt like continuing his assault. Did you really think that releasing your mana would scare me? Me? You low-born piece of trash. I'll show you the difference between a commoner and a noble. Spatial magic, Archangel shoot down. Doing his Messiah pose once again, he rained down a storm of spatial orbs at the lone standing Grimm. But just as he was about to laugh about his victory, the smile on his face froze. Breath of mist, third form, 8-layered mist. Swish. 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 Hey. Standing there in his Messiah pose, Langris didn't understand what was going on. A minute ago he had been dominating the match, so why were all his attacks suddenly intercepted by tens of mist slashes? So this is what he meant when he said I had enough power to beat him from the start. I really have to start getting my excitement under control. Spatial magic, the power to transport something from one location to the other. Since the principle was the same even with offensive spatial magic, didn't that mean that all he had to do was make contact with the spatial orbs so that they could fulfill their purpose and vanish? So if he interrupted Langris's spatial orbs with his long-range 8-layer mist before they could hit him, then wasn't this fight basically over? Now that Grimm had understood this, the novelty of offensive spatial magic had ended for him and his interest in Langris completely vanished. What a boring magic! He muttered to himself. To be honest, Langris was nothing more than a one-trick pony. Now that he had found the flaw in his spatial orbs, all he had to watch out for was his spatial cuts. And since he was no longer concerned with his spatial orbs, he could just use ki in the transparent world to read the trajectory of his arm swings and avoid the spatial cuts. While his body was still exhausted and needed some rest, the threat Langris posed no longer relevant, and the initial excitement he had felt at the beginning of the match had all but just about died. Hell, after reading the description of the new water spell he got, he thought that even this was too good to use on someone like Langris. "Hey Grim!" A voice echoed from behind. Turning his head slightly, he saw the figures of David and Selena waving at him. "Do you need some help?" "Help?" He shook his head and yelled back. "Nah, I got this." And without any further ado, he started walking towards Langris and Fragile without a care in the world. Errata. Regarding some of the comments about Grim being nerfed last CHP and what was the point of his fight with Mirioliana if he was getting beaten so badly. I think I should explain. First of all, Grim was facing a magic type he'd never fought before, and in his excitement he got cornered and literally didn't have a chance to relax. Not to mention that Langris was barraging him with spatial orbs that put holes in your body if you get hit once. If you've seen Langris vs you know how fast these attacks are, and his spatial cut slashes are invisible, like dimension slash. So he had to actively avoid invisible attacks while defending against attacks that could be fatal if he let his guard down. He was mentally and physically exhausted. That's also not including the fact that Fragile was slowing his movement speed with her magic by lowering the temperature, which is why he had to switch to Breath of Water to increase his dwindling mobility. At least with Mirioliana her attacks were straightforward and she fought at a close range. Langris and Fragile on the other hand excel at long-range combat. Hope that help cleared things up a little. And I know you guys thought Grim was gonna rage out and hoop Langris, but then I realized that's some generic shit and decided to play it smart. I know we all like our clichés, but do you think Grim could accept winning like that? Chapter 102, A Beating of the Highest Order. Unleashing Archangel Shootdown once again, Langris barraged Grim with a volley of spatial orbs and spatial slashes. Die. Watching the attacks descend upon him, Grim stopped in his tracks and looked up to stare at Langris. Weak. Boom. Switching to Breath of Wind, Grim coated his body in a green aura as he started levitating off the ground and leapt towards the spatial and snow mages. Breath of Wind, second form, Claws Purifying Wind. Breath of Wind, third form, Clean Storm Wind Tree. Breath of Wind, fourth form, Rising Dust Storm. Activating all three new wind spells that he had gotten after creating the air grenade technique a while back, Grim executed all three spells one after the other and used them to not only interfere with the spatial orbs while dodging the spatial cuts, but to also throw out several counter-attacks. A/N, bet you guys forgot that he had these three wind spells. With Claws Purifying Wind, every time he swung his sword 4 vertical wind blades would shoot out and block any spatial orbs descending upon him. It was like the wind version of 8-layered mist but with 4 less slashes. Using Clean Storm Wind Tree, he unleashed a whirlwind of slashes around his body that defended him from any incoming attacks and sliced up his surroundings. It reminded him of a slower version of Crazy Cutting but with more range. As for Rising Dust Storm, this was his counterattack. A monozone-like spell that created several wind blades that manifest themselves from under his opponents and sliced them up. While it was a good spell, mages with keen mana sensing abilities or mages that were fast enough could easily evade them. Too bad that neither Langris nor Fragile were those types of mages. Grinning to himself, Grim activated Rising Dust Storm and listened as Langris's and Fragile's screams echoed throughout the battlefield as his wind blades appeared beneath them and sliced up their skin. But since he couldn't kill them and wanted to make them suffer more for putting him in such a tiring situation, he made the wounds shallow. Viewing platform. He turned it around. Stunned at the sudden reversal in the fight, the Magic Knights stood with their mouths agape. Boom. Once Langris and Fragile were struck by his Rising Dust Storm, Grim quickly closed the gap by using air grenade on his feet to rocket forward and appear in front of the two Magic Knights. He's here. Seeing him appear in front of her with that ever-present smile stuck on his face, Fragile's body trembled as all the fear and pain she experienced during his visit to the Azure Deer base flooded back into her. Why did I think I could beat him? Dematerializing the wind sword and raising his arm to the side, Fragile closed her eyes expecting him to slap her like he was rumored to have done to Nebra Silva. But just as she thought that this was the end for her, Grim did something completely unexpected. Creating another air grenade on the palm of his right hand, he combusted it and used the shockwave to blast himself over to the far left. Once there, he changed the way he was holding the wind sword as he mentally checked its weight. Should be doable. After confirming its weight, the smile on his face grew wider as he gathered wind magic around that arm, and using the boosted strength granted to him by his breath of the beast base power, he threw the sword in a spear-like way that it tore through the air and pierced through Fragile's stomach. Kya! Not wasting any more time and creating a air grenade on the palm of his hand that he used to throw the sword, Grim used the shockwave to propel forward and towards the stunned Fragile, whose brain still hadn't fully registered the pain as of yet. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Shooting forward at an insane level of speed, he lowered his center of gravity and arrived in front of the snow mage at a low angle before driving the sword deeper into her stomach by hitting the butt of the sword with an air grenade powerful enough to drive the blade in until only the hilt and handguard were visible. As a result of using the air grenade in such close proximity, there was enough force and power that the sword threatened to tear through Fragile's body as she was sent flying backwards and into one of the newly formed mountains. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Feeling her back slam into the rocky structure, Fragile opened her mouth in order to scream, but the only thing that came out was a mouthful of bright red blood as she quickly found out that the sword in her stomach had not only pierced her, but also impaled the rocks behind her and held her up like a puppet while drenching her white coat red. You! Ignoring Fragile's situation and focusing his attention on Grim, who was standing right in front of him, Langris activated his spatial orbs once more and hurled them at him. Hat! Smiling loosely at Langris's last-ditch effort, Grim switched to Breath of Water and started to effortlessly swerve through the attacks using Flowing Dance. Give it up, I've already adapted to your speed. Arg! Gritting his teeth and letting out an anger-filled scream, Langris kept on it despite watching Grim evade his attacks. Time to end this. No longer entertained by Langris's magic, Grim flowed through the spatial attacks and flashed in front of a surprised Langris. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Kaya. Not holding back in the slightest, Grim threatened to end Langris's family line by switching to Breath of Wind and ruthlessly striking his testes while forming an air grenade on the tip of his shoe. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Waya. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Watching him rise into the air from the impact from his air grenade-enhanced kick, Grim quickly grasped onto his rising shoulders and forcefully pulled him back down before smashing his head off his kneecap. Feeling the familiar sensation of someone's bones breaking upon making contact with his knee, Grim grabbed onto Langris's leg as he was falling backwards. Making use of that breath of the beast strength he had, he lifted him up off the ground and proceeded to Hulk smash him dozens of times over before laying him flat on his back. Wheeze cough cough blurg. Throwing up several mouthfuls of blood, every inch of Langris's body was screaming in pain as Grim repeated the words he had said earlier to him. Commoners should know their place. Isn't that what you said? Standing over him and looking down at his pathetic figure, Grim couldn't help but mock him by using his own words against him. Commoners are on the bottom while you of noble lineage stand above them, right? But if that's the case, why are you the one laying in the dirt while I, a commoner, stand above you? That's not right, is it? Clenches teeth. Oh? Looks like you've still got some fire in your eyes. Let's snuff that out. Presenting a smile that radiated nothing but innocence and purity, Langris watched as Grim picked up his discarded grimoire. This should do. Grim nodded to himself before sitting on top of Langris's stomach. Humming to himself lightly, he raised Langris's grimoire high into the air before mercilessly slamming it down on Langris's face with enough force that one could hear the air whistle from its speed. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Hitting him over and over again, the only sound present throughout the entire area was the book hitting Langris's face and the land beneath his head wearing out as his head sunk in deeper and deeper. By the time he was done with him, the front cover of Langris's grimoire that was originally light blue, had a new coating of red splashed across it. Whew! Wiping off the sweat from his forehead after such a workout, Grim turned his head to the side and saw an egg-shaped crystal that didn't belong to his team off in the distance. Oh! I almost forgot about that. Langris groaned. Staring down at him, Grim said a single word before heading towards the crystal. Latum. A/N, if you know, you know. A/N, I love it when Grim acts like this. Creator's thoughts. Errata. So episode 170 is when the Black Clover anime is going on hiatus. Makes sense, they were too close to the manga anyway. Just a shame that we're not gonna see what's happening in the manga animated anytime soon. Also thought this was a satisfying way to end this 3-chapter long fight. Hope you found it as satisfying to read as I did to write. As for you guys who read this as soon as I post, sorry for the delay, my uni's on that bullshit at the moment, and even though I'm in my second semester my workload isn't getting any lighter. Chapter 103, The Final Four. After disrespecting Langris by beating him half to death with his own grimoire, Grimm swiftly took care of the enemy crystal under the watchful eye of deathless King Sek and the rest of the Clover Kingdom. And once again, he got away with his actions of nailing Fragile to the side of a mountain and brutalizing Langris under the cover of showing the Clover citizens that nobles weren't all powerful. And of course Julius couldn't say anything to him as he hadn't killed anyone or left them with lifelong injuries. As long a trauma didn't count. Sigh. Exhausting a lot of his physical strength and stamina, Grimm took a seat next to Julius and the Clover King and had Nabra prove herself by having her massage his shoulders while he slowly recuperated from his last fight. Watching the last couple of fights in the tournament, Grimm couldn't help but feel optimistic at the thought of fighting in the next match. Asta, Yuno, and Ril. The only 3 competitors that were still capable of catching his interest. Asta's control over his black form seemed to be more refined compared to what he showed in the Witch's Forest and back on the Ultima Volcano. Yuno seemed to be sweeping through the competition, but Grimm got the feeling that he hadn't shown everything just yet. And as for Ril, taking away the fact that he was a captain, the way he dealt with Lux team's combination magic like it was nothing was more than enough to capture Grimm's interest. The semifinals. Standing up and announcing the results of the previous fight, Julius stood in front of the Magic Knights and the Clover Kingdom in order to address the final 4 teams in Royal Knight selection exam. At last we are drawing near to the end of this wondrous examination. For the final matches we have Team Ril, Team Yuno, Team Asta, and Team Grimm going head-to-head in order to fight it out in order to reach the final round. Listening to the Magic Knights going crazy with excitement, Julius couldn't help but smile at their enthusiasm. Quieting everyone down, he announced who would be fighting who in the semi-finals. For the first match, the fighters will be Team Yuno against Team Ril. Whoa! Seriously? The kid with the 4-leaf clover fighting the kingdom's youngest captain. My bet's on the captain. I want some of that action. Watching the Magic Knights placing their bets on which team would win, the corners of Grimm's lips rose as he realized that this meant he'd be fighting against Asta for the semi-finals. Yo Grimm! Turning to the side to see who had called him, the figure of Asta waving at him with a ridiculous smile spread across his face came into view as the little ball of muscle ran over to him. We're gonna fight each other again. Looks like. Grimm grinned. Hat. It won't be like last time, this time I'll make sure I win. Asta proclaimed. Instead of giving him an answer, Grimm turned to face the battlefield as he felt a weird fluctuation in mana coming from Yuno. Well. Let's do it. Facing off against the captain of the Azure Deer, Yuno felt his limits drawing close. Hey! Flying next to his figure, the wind spirit Slyph had a look of confusion on her face. You mean Badump? Okay. From his experience of controlling mana coupled with his recent training of the mana skin technique, Yuno discovered a way to take all that excess mana and found a way to store it within himself. I plan to use this against Asta or that Grimm guy in the finals, but since I'm up against a captain, I guess there's no better time to use it than now. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. While he was speaking, all the mana around him gathering around him as his cape part of his magic night robe started blowing upwards from the crazy amount of mana going haywire around him. Yuno. Hugging her body and moaning to herself, the wind spirit started glowing green as she started to fade and her essence seemed to be absorbed by Yuno. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. I knew it. He really was holding something back. Watching from up high, Grimm felt the blood in his body starting to accelerate as gusts of strong wind managed to reach even here. Asta, I'm going to blow past you here, because as always, I will be the one to beat you. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Unleashing more and more mana, a tornado seemed to gather around him and hide his figure as bright green light burst out from within. This is it, the power I developed to make it to the top. Spirit assimilation, spirit dive. Asterisk swoosh. Asterisk. Slashing his hand forward, the tornado surrounding his figure was swept to the side as his form was revealed to all. Oh my god! Is that the spirit's power? Combining with Sylph, Yuno's left arm had turned neon green as a green circle of connected crosses appear around his wrist while a single green wing appeared from the left side of his back and a green half-crown of connected crosses manifested itself onto the left side of his head. Feeling a single bead of sweat roll down the side of his face, Grimm couldn't conceal his battle lust as his eyes were trained on the one-winged Yuno. Just looking at that form and feeling the mana radiating off of him, Grimm's body began to tremble in anticipation. I need to fight him. Amazing! Grimm wasn't the only one feeling excited at seeing Yuno's new form. Right now, I feel like I could paint anything. Swiping his brush off his palette board, Rill manifested a purple harpy-like monster itself beside himself. With each raising their arm and brush respectively, the two magic knights unleashed their strongest spells. Wind Spirit Magic, Spirit Storm. Painting Magic, Scream of the Mystical Dragon Vuvra. Uaaaa. Erg. Feeling the immense force from their clash, many magic knights had to shield their eyes and protect themselves from the magical discharge. Yuno's gotten so much stronger. Seeing Yuno in this spirit dive form didn't seem to deter Asta in the slightest, as it looked like he was both proud and ecstatic at the fact that his childhood friend was reaching greater heights. Grimm! He suddenly called out. I don't know why, but right now, I really want to fight you. Seeing the look of determination and slight battle lust gathering in Asta's eyes, Grimm could hardly hold himself back as Asta's feelings seemed to mirror his own. Asterisk crack. Asterisk. Before Grimm could answer, the shattering sound of a crystal rang out as Rill's crystal shattered due to his own magic power leaking out behind him. Well, I guess it's me and Asta next. Creator's thoughts. Errata. Double chapter release. Why are you still reading this? Move on to CHP 104 people. Chapter 104, Battle of MCs. Not wasting any time, Asta dug his feet in the ground and immediately sprang into action by entering his black form. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Kicking off the ground with a tremendous force, he charged towards Grimm. Going all out from the start. Not wanting to give him time to react, Asta flashed in front of him with his Demon Slayer sword raised high in the air. Ha! Tightening his grip on the hilt, he mercilessly slashed his sword down. Swoosh! Asterisk bang! Asterisk. What? Slashing down with all of his strength, a look of shock and awe crossed his face when he saw Grimm materialize his beast swords to block the attack. Het! Asterisk crack! Asterisk. Due to the bone-shattering force generated from their swords colliding, the two magic knights unleashed a devastating shockwave so powerful that it threatened to rip the flesh off the combatants that were too close to its epicenter. Oh my god! Everyone gasped as they watched the ground beneath Asta and Grimm's feet collapse due to it not being able to withstand the pressure. What force? Het! Raising his head, Grimm grinned at his squad mate. That's not all you have, right, Asta? Smiling back, Asta said. Not by a long shot. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Pushing back against each other, Grimm switched to Breath of Wind and used Rising Dust Storm to manifest a sharp rotating wind underneath Asta's feet. Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk. Sensing his intent with his ki, Asta put some distance between the two of them by jumping back and avoiding the sharp whirlwind that rose from the ground. Grabbing the hilt of his Demon Slayer sword with both hands, he stomped down hard and shot towards Grimm in a half-running half-flying state. Asterisk swoosh. Asterisk. Black meteorite. Coating his body in anti-magic, Asta flashed in front of him with the Demon Slayer held at his side and dealt a powerful horizontal slash aimed at Grimm's head. A/N, damn boy, calm down. Feeling the pressure from the blade pass over him, Grimm lowered his center of gravity to duck below Asta's sword and slash at his knee before spinning and following through with a Breath of the Beast enhanced kick to the abdomen. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Arg. Sending him flying backwards, Grimm completely forgot about the whole point of the tournament and he shot forward and caught up to Asta while brimming with energy. Let's do this, Asta. Feeling the wind blowing past his face, Grimm couldn't hide his excited grin as he charged forth. Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk. Oh crap! Was the last thing Asta managed to say before Grimm closed in on him and was about to uppercut him. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. That's more like it. Grimm roared. Somehow able to block his punch with the flat side of his sword, Asta was sent hurtling upwards and through the clouds. Asta! Mimosa yelled while defending the crystal from Grimm's teammates. What the hell? He wasn't this strong the last time we fought. Viewing area. Sitting on the chair with Charmy in his lap, the Wizard King watched the fight with great interest. Hey, isn't that? It's reinforcement magic. Julius cut in. Barring the fight in the Witch's Forest when he was unconscious, the last time Asta and Grimm had truly fought properly was when luck was involved all those months ago. So it was natural that he didn't know Grimm had learnt reinforcement magic. After all, he had only learned it after his fight with Mirioliana. And since his stamina had recovered from his fight with Langris and Fragile, he could finally use this power to its fullest extent. Gritting his teeth and doing his best to ignore the numb feeling spreading through his arms, Asta managed to use his black wing to stop himself from getting blown through the stratosphere and stabilize himself. It was just too bad that Grimm hadn't been satisfied yet. Breath of Water, 8th form, Waterfall Basin. What the hell? Were the only thing he was capable of saying once he saw the descending quantity of water falling from the sky. And to make matters even worse, Grimm was charging up from the ground with a crazed expression on his face. Above him was a ridiculous amount of descending magic water and below him was a crazed maniac ascending towards him. Black Hurricane. Boom. Activating his new anti-magic spell, Asta started spinning rapidly and used it to erase every drop of water that fell from the sky. If I continue to spin this fast then Grimm won't have a chance to attack me. A/N, oh you sweet child. Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk. What the? Using Key and the transparent world to analyze and predict the speed and angle of Black Hurricane, Grimm managed to find a small gap in the anti-spell and with some quick adjustments to his own speed and velocity, he exploited the opening in Asta's defense to burst through the outward layer of the hurricane without being slashed by the Demon Slayer sword and shot right past a spinning Asta. Did he just come inside my hurricane? Why? From an outside perspective it may have looked like Grimm had just entered into Asta's anti-magic spell and flown through the other side, but the reality of the situation was that while Grimm had flown past him, he had actually grabbed onto Asta's wing and dragged him along. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Warg. Using his natural ability to fly, Grimm switched to Breath of Blue Flames and repeatedly used Grimm style, unknowing fire 3 times to accelerate higher and higher at such a speed that the wind threatened to cut his face. This should be enough. After reaching a height that was out of sight of the Wizard King and the others, Grimm tightened his grip on Asta's wing and began to swing him around. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Arg. Feeling like he was gonna throw up, Asta stuck through the pain of having his wing nearly torn off. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Letting go of him, Asta's body flew through the air at a speed capable of creating a sonic boom. After training to increase the speed in which he changed magic types, Grimm rapidly switched styles as he kept firing off long-ranged magic attacks. 8-layered mist. Rengoku. Claws purifying wind. Sudden throwing strike. Asterisk swoosh. Asterisk. Asterisk swoosh. Asterisk. Asterisk swoosh. Asterisk. Managing to stabilize himself, Asta went on the defensive as he started flying in order to evade. While he was confident in deflecting Grimm's attacks with his swords, something told him that doing so would be in Grimm's favor. Watching Asta fly through the air and evade his attacks, the smile in Grimm's grew wider as his grimoire suddenly glowed bright blue. Constant flux. Feeling his mana rise and fluctuate once more, the blue aura around his body seemed to separate from himself as it formed itself into a giant blue water dragon. Hunt. Asterisk Ruoar. Asterisk. Heeding his command, the water dragon's eyes flashed as it unleashed a ferocious roar before springing towards Asta. Are you kidding me? Dodging all of his long-ranged attacks, Asta was surprised to see a giant fucking water dragon trying to eat him. Asterisk snap. Asterisk. Barely managing to dodge the dragon's jaws, Asta swung his sword and slashed through its watery neck. Hey! But to his shock, the fact that the dragon was still there sent a shive through his whole body. That won't work. Hearing Grimm's voice behind, Asta suddenly realized that Grimm's key was no longer in the distance. Like running a knife through water, everything finally clicked in Asta's head. It wasn't that his anti-magic didn't work on Grimm's dragon, it was the fact that Grimm's dragon had no solid form and his sword was merely passing through it, so it couldn't really cut it. Unfortunately, he had figured it out too late. If he had used Black Hurricane straight away, he would have destroyed Grimm's dragon and might have been prepared for Grimm's ambush. Before he could move any further, the feeling of Grimm's sword pressing against the back of his neck stopped him. I lost. Asta sighed, not seeing any way to get out of this. Even if he was able to get away and use Black Hurricane to take care of the dragon, there was no guarantee that Grimm wouldn't be able to find another gap in his defense and slip through again. But my job is done. Asta suddenly smiled. Job? Asterisk ding. Asterisk asterisk ding. Asterisk asterisk ding. Asterisk. The bell. He was stalling for time. Zerx said that I should keep you busy while he and Mimosa took care of your crystal. Is that so? Seeing that Grimm wasn't panicking, a feeling of discomfort started rising in Asta's chest. Why are you so calm? I just told you that everything had gone according to my team's plan. If I had normal teammates then I would be worried. But I have a wild card. A wild card? Asta repeated. Down on the ground, a bruised-up David stood in front of Selena with a dice in his hand and a smile spread across his face. Dice magic, the power to increase or decrease the magic power of an ally or enemy. A risky magic that could drastically change the outcome of any battle. Since Selena's primary objective was to keep the crystal safe at all costs, she was constantly on the move while David kept casting debuff spells on his enemies. Once he had gotten the results he wanted, he'd have Selena attack. With this hit-and-run tactic in play, the two magic knights managed to finally destroy the enemy crystal while avoiding damaging their own. That being said, there were a couple close calls. Creator's thoughts. Errata. Been wanting to write this fight for so long. And lol, David finally did something useful. Hope you guys enjoyed this double release. Chapter 105, Reflection. It was a valiant effort, Asta, but you're lacking in too many areas to beat me. If you had any long-range abilities this would have been much more fun. Flying high above the sky with his sword still pressed against the back of Asta's neck. Both boys listened as the announcer called the match. You won, Hui. Asta sighed after hearing the results. Disappointed. A little bit. He chuckled before showing off his usual Asta smile. Let's go down. Grimm nodded. That was so cool. Running over to the duo, Luck's eyes were practically sparkling. You both did well. Vanessa smiled. You looked really cool out there. Dabbing his forehead with a handkerchief, Mimosa praised Grimm's performance while also declaring war on the other girls with her actions. Considering that she was on Asta's team and had just lost to Grimm's team, her actions were a little out of place in the eyes of everyone else. You did very well, Master. Nabra bowed modestly while also doing her best not to glare at her younger cousin. Ugh. Looking at her usually arrogant sister acting so docile, Noelle didn't know how to feel. That being said, she could imagine her brother's reaction. It was a very impressive performance indeed. Hey! Every said in union as they turned around and saw the Wizard King standing there. Wizard King? Everyone except Grimm gasped. Why does he keep appearing? Popping up from behind him with an unusual amount of energy, the captain of the Azure Deer stared at Grimm and Asta with starry eyes. Apparently their match was so spectacular that he felt his creative juices flowing and needed to release all that passion through his art. Please accept this. Thrusting his arms out and bowing at the same time, Rill held out a painting of Grimm and Asta locked in battle. Whoa! Everyone covered their mouths after seeing the painting. How lifelike! I feel like I'm rewatching the battle. Anyone else scared that it's gonna jump out at them? Sniff, Master Rill is giving away his first present. Watching the exchange between Rill, Asta, and Grimm take place from a distance, Rill's butler Walter couldn't help but let out a small sob of joy. Thanks. Grimm accepted the painting. While he wasn't the biggest fan of paintings and stuff, he had to admit this was pretty good. Asta. A voice suddenly sounded out. Hey! Turning around to face the person calling him, Asta's eyes suddenly went wide. Yuno. Smiling at his childhood friend, Yuno started teasing him over his loss at Grimm's hands. I didn't think you'd fall short here, I guess I was expecting too much from you. Oh yeah? Well, just you wait. Grimm's gonna totally kick your ass and win the next match. Doubtful. Grr. While the two of them argued over the results of the next match, Noelle was looking at Grimm with a complicated expression. Since she was on Yuno's team, it meant that she'd also be facing off against Grimm in the final match. But after seeing him fight throughout the tournament, she had to admit that compared to him she was advancing at a snail's pace. This was especially the case in his fight against Asta and Langris. Against an opponent who could ignore defense and one who negates magic, he single-handedly won against both of them by his lonesome. But what about her? Her biggest achievement was beating her older brother who Grimm had already beaten months in advance. Could she even be proud of such an accomplishment? I need to get stronger. Clenching her fists tightly, her eyes burned with newfound resolve. A/N, good for her. Watching the next generation of magic knights fighting and getting along, Julius smiled at the sight in front of him. Looks like the future of this kingdom will be safe with these kids around. Listening to Yuno and Asta argue about who would win the next round, Grimm yawned and walked over to Selena and David. Yo Grimm! David waved excited over the fact that they made it to the finals. Thanks for believing in us. Selena smiled. Believing in you? Yeah. David jumped in. You know, leaving it up to us to destroy the crystal. Oh. Being completely honest, leaving it up to them was a gamble that just so happened to pay off. So what's the plan for the next match? David asked. Plan? Why would we need one of those? We're already in the finals. Confused by what he meant, the two looked at him. What do you mean we don't need a plan because we're in the finals? Being in the finals already guarantees us a place as Royal Knights. Winning or losing won't change that fact. Oh. I guess you're right. David said absent-mindedly. Yep, so in this final match just do whatever you want, as long as you don't let the crystal get destroyed too quickly we'll be good. Oh. Okay, but what will you be doing? Selena asked, accepting that this match meant nothing to Grimm. Me? I'm gonna raise hell. Viewing platform. Who do you think will win? Standing next to Asta, Mimosa and the others watched with anticipation. Falling silent, Asta's eyes were trained on the figures of Grimm and Yuno. After fighting him, I can't imagine Grimm losing. Oh? So you think Grimm will win? The Wizard King's voice suddenly rung out. Wizard King. Chuckling at their confused faces, Julius didn't explain and simply pointed at Noelle's figure. We might be in for a surprise. Creator's thoughts. Errata. Just found out that there was another Black Clover FF on here called in Black Clover with Madara's powers as magic. It was quite a read. A bit too serious for my taste and the MC starts pretty OP, which I'm not a fan of, but hey, more Black Clover FF are great. Although I am quite curious who would win in a battle between Grimm and the MC of the other FF at their peaks. Anyway, final match of the Royal Knights exam next CHP. LOL, we're so close to the reincarnation arc. Chapter 106, Plan. Viewing platform. What the hell are we watching? He turned the battlefield into a scorching wasteland. Battlefield. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. As explosions rang out in the background, the sound of a boy's laughter resounded throughout the entire area. Ah ha 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 ha. TCH. Blown back by an intense shockwave, Yuno, who was in his spirit dive form, grit his teeth and thrust his green arm forward. Spirit magic, spirit storm. I'll back you up. Standing on the other end of him, breathing heavily, a tired-looking Noelle pointed her wand ahead of herself. Water creation magic, sea dragon's roar. Yes, yes. Yes. Standing in the centers of both attacks, Grimm grinned wildly as his battle lust started rising to unprecedented levels. More, entertain me more. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Switching to breath of blue flames and then using Grimm style, unknowing fire, the ground beneath his feet blew up as he shot towards the beam of concentrated spirit magic with a smile spread across his face. He's attacking head-on. Not expecting Grimm to take on an attack that contended with the raw power of the captain of the Azure Deer for a short time, a look of shock flashed across Yuno's eyes. Moments away from being struck by the beam, the smile on Grimm's face grew wider as he looked like he was having the time of his life. Who knew that fighting two competent mages would actually be this fun? A/N, we all did. Watching the beam fill up his sight, Grimm did something that no one expected. Breath of the beast, sudden throwing strike. He switched. Was the common phrase amongst the spectating magic knights. Watching from the safety of the viewing platform, Vanessa suddenly realized something. Has he ever switched that fast before? Throwing his beast swords forward, Grimm watched as they tore through the spirit storm before suddenly jumping up and performing a mid-air backflip as Noel's sea dragon's roar flew under him and struck towards Yuno. Seeing the water dragon suddenly appear in front of his kneeling figure, Yuno felt his eyes go wide as the dragon opened its mouth. Aha! Asta laughed from the distance. While Yuno was busy being eaten, Grimm, who was still in the air, landed on the ground and turned to face Noel with shit-eating grin plastered across his face. Nice aim, he said while giving her a thumbs up. He used my own attack to deal with my own teammate. Shaking in anger over him using her own attack against her, she grit her teeth and raised her wand. Water creation magic, Sea Dragon's Roar. Breath of water, 10th form, constant flux. Keeping the same smile on his face that he had been wearing all this time, he switched to Breath of Water and unleashed his own water dragon to contend with Noel's. To Grimm, beating someone with their own element was one of the greatest feelings a human could ever experience. Not even mentioning the fact that both their attacks were basically the same. In this sense, he wanted to show her that even if water magic wasn't his go-to style, he still exceeded her. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Erg. Covering her face from the force of the dragons colliding, splashes of water were sent all over the place. The dragons were equal in power. No. Compared to when he fought Asta, the power of the dragon was clearly weaker. Did he intentionally lower the power in order for both dragons to be the same? Had. Dematerializing his water sword, Grimm spread his arms open wide. Come at me. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Fueled by his taunts, Noel unleashed an even more powerful sea dragon's roar. Gritting his teeth, Grimm braced himself for impact as the water dragon crashed into him. Feeling like he was being hit by a high-powered jet stream, Grimm dug his feet into the floor and did his best to stand ground. As if something like this could cause me to take a step back. Operating Breath of Water to its limits, Grimm felt the blue glow around his body becoming more and more robust as the pressure from the dragon started to lighten up. This is. Watching from her attacking position, Noel's mouth opened wide as she realized that his attack was incapable of moving Grimm from his position. Impossible. Even if his defense is insane, he shouldn't be able to brunt my attack with just his body alone. While Noel and the audience were trying to comprehend how Grimm was able to withstand Noel's full-powered attack, Grimm was laughing internally. My elemental resistance to water-based spells has increased. Thanks to Noel using her strongest water spell on him, Grimm not only managed to increase his resistance to water magic, he also felt that he was close to achieving another water-based spell in his grimoire. No longer feeling as pressured by her attack as he had earlier, all Grimm had to do now was resist the impact and physical power the dragon had. It was a good thing that his Breath of the Beast base improved his physical capabilities. Tanking the attack with grit teeth, the moment the spell ended Grimm felt relieved. Phew! Fight me properly! Hey! Fight me properly! Noel suddenly screamed at him, trembling with rage. Stop using me to show off and face me properly. Then try to make me serious. Clenching her fists tightly, Noel was about to cast another spell, but someone else seemed to do it before her. Wind creation magic, Wind Blades Shower. Flowing Dance. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Bursting out of the dirt and taking to the skies, Yuno shower Grimm in a barrage of falling sword-shaped wind blades. Unfortunately, thanks to him utilizing his beast senses, ki, and transparent world ability in conjuncture with flowing dance, it wasn't much of a challenge for Grimm to evade the wind blades and watch them stab into the ground. Didn't take you for a surprise attack kinda guy. Staying quiet, Yuno landed next to Noel with a face full of resolve. We'll win, he said while keeping his eyes focused on Grimm at all times. Seeing the look of determination in his eyes, Noel couldn't help but steal her own resolve as she nodded her head and said right. Standing side by side, the two magic knights unleashed their mana. Smiling at their attempt to intimidate him, Grimm flexed his own mana and materialized a water dragon next to him. Viewing platform. Whoa! I knew Miss Silva had a lot of mana due to her royal lineage, but to think that some no-named peasant boy would have such an amount as well. Wait! Look! Someone pointed at Grimm. That boy's mana isn't being suppressed by the others. What? Even this much isn't enough. What the hell is he? The crowd of magic knights kept reacting like this for a while, but once they realized that Grimm, Noelle and Asta, who all made it to the semi-finals and finals, were a part of the same squad. They couldn't help but lower their heads in shame. While it was understandable that Noelle and Mimosa made it to the finals and semi-finals, the fact that 3 commoners made this far was unheard of. Quite a lot, mana. For humans anyway. Too bad you guys have the opposite problem to Asta. Unlike Asta, who had no long-range attacks, the 2 mages in front of him lacked any close-range spells. While Grimm was all about crushing his opponents into the dirt, if he couldn't have a good time while doing it, then what was the point? As they were now, neither Asta, Noelle or Luck could put up a proper fight against him. Let's end it here. Gripping the sword hilt tightly, Grimm breathed in deeply. Since I'm facing the 2 of them together, I should try out Constant Flux properly. Having gained the spell in his fight against Langris, Grimm had only used half of the spell's true power. By letting the dragon hunt alone, Grimm had limited the spell's capability. But right now he was gonna do what the spell was originally meant to do. Noelle. Suddenly called. If we're gonna win this, we're gonna need to take him down with our strongest attacks. Yet. She nodded. I'll create an opening, you finish him off when you get the chan. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Not waiting for them to finish their battle strategy, Grimm, who was surrounded by glowing blue light, shot forward with his dragon moving in parallel with him. With no time left to think, thrust his arm forward. Wind magic, gale white bow. Pulling his right arm back, wind started converging in front of his figure until it formed itself into a large bow with 6 large arrows nocked and ready to fire at a target. Go. Asterisk swoosh. Asterisk. Asterisk swoosh. Asterisk. Asterisk swoosh. Asterisk. Seeing the incoming arrows approaching, Grimm's face didn't change as he suddenly moved to the left while the dragon moved to the right. What? Asterisk swish. Asterisk. Asterisk swish. Asterisk. Asterisk swish. Asterisk. With the other arrows still coming at them, Grimm kept dodging to the left and right while the dragon followed his lead. Watching Grimm and the dragon make it through Yuno's arrows, Noelle couldn't hide the shock on her face. Those movements, the dragon's completely in sync with him. Whenever he moved left, the dragon moved to the right, even altering the course of his direction and going diagonal caused the dragon to do the same just in the opposite direction. Charging forward with movements that resembled flowing dance but made to support the dragon, Grimm and his dragon closed in on the 2 mages. Now, breaking off into 2 different directions, went to the right while Noelle went to the left. Trying to split my attention, hey. Splitting from the dragon, Grimm chased after while the dragon went after Noelle. Since I'm using breath of water at the moment, I can't switch attributes unless I want my dragon to disappear. After watching Grimm's past fights, had noticed that Grimm couldn't use 2 different magic attributes at the same time and planned to use this knowledge to force Grimm into exposing another weakness. I'll have an advantage if I fly upwards. Taking to the skies with Grimm hot on his trail, suddenly turned around and activated another spell. Wind magic, towering tornado. Creator's thoughts. Errata. Ah, I saw in the previous comments that someone said Grimm would get his magic copied by Madara, MC of other BCFF. Now that I think about it, that would probably happen. But then again, it's not like that would bother Grimm too much. He might even laugh at the notion. Besides, there's things that Madara wouldn't be able to copy. Like his natural battle instincts, ki, transparent world, beast instincts, and unpredictable nature. Not to mention that Grimm isn't close to hitting his peak yet, you'll understand more in the elf arc. Think about it like this, Raya, who had copied dozens of spells, couldn't beat Mirioliana, who only use fire magic. And lol, if Dante can beat Naruto Madara, and Asta, manga, is close to surpassing him, then wouldn't that mean at the same stage Grimm would be the same? LOL, I really want to spoil you guys on what Grimm will be capable of doing later on. But I know deep down that you guys wouldn't want that. Chapter 107, One Spell. Using wind magic to generate a tornado, launched it at the approaching Grimm. This is your chance, Noelle. Running from the dragon, Noelle saw through Yuno's intentions and pointed her wand at Grimm. With the tornado approaching him at such a speed, Grimm would have no choice but to slow down if he wanted to dodge. With his wind magic enhanced by the power of the spirit, there was no doubt in Yuno's mind that Grimm couldn't take this attack head-on. I know this didn't work before, but this time I'll beat him. Water creation magic, Sea Dragon's Roar. Asterisk roar. Asterisk. Burst out of her wand, Noel's dragon cut through the sky at an alarming speed. Yuno clenches his fists. This is it, it's our win. With the tornado closing in on him and Noel's dragon moments away from striking him, it was impossible for Grimm to be able to deal with both. He had to either slow down in order to evade the tornado and get hit by the dragon or focus on dodging Noel's dragon, but with the tornado moving as fast as it was he wouldn't have much time to do so. At least that's what Yuno assumed. It was just a shame that high expectations are usually followed by feelings of disappointment. Watching the tornado fill his vision, Grimm felt time slow down slightly as the corners of his lips curved upwards. Holding the water sword down at his side with both hands, Grimm's body was covered in a soft blue glow as his movements become so fluid that he somehow managed to smoothly dodge the oncoming tornado by twisting in midair without losing the momentum driving him forward. Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk. Feeling the wind push against his back as he twisted past the tornado shot right past him as he finished his 360-degree turn and swung his sword that was down at his side upwards at Yuno. Constant flux. Asterisk roar. Asterisk. What? Bursting out of his sword, a water dragon suddenly charged out. Caught off guard by Grimm's actions, Yuno's eyes went wide as he didn't have enough time to react before the water dragon was already in front of him. Watching as Yuno was being eaten by a water dragon for the second time today, Grimm burst into a fit of laughter. Yuno! Noelle screamed. As if it could hear her, the ascending water dragon suddenly performed a mid-air U-turn and dove downwards towards the child of royal blood. When Grimm used constant flux on Yuno, the dragon that Noelle had previously been running from had vanished, giving her a chance to catch her breath. Now imagine her face when she had to start running again because of another water dragon. Watching her run with all her might while firing off water bullets, Grimm decided to end things here. Sea Dragon's Roar. In a last-ditch effort to turn things around, Noelle unleashed her strongest spell in hopes of stopping Grimm's dragon. It was just unfortunate that the moment her dragon came into contact with the other it was incapable of slowing it down, let alone stopping it. Finish her! Opening its mouth wide, Grimm's dragon lowered its head and scooped Noelle up before swallowing her. Viewing platform. One spell. He used one spell to take out 2 of his 3 enemies. Watching the scene in silence, the Magic Knights had nothing more to say. Whether they liked or hated him, everyone had to admit that Grimm was a capable combatant. Battlefield. Floating in the sky and looking at the scorched ground below him, Grimm looked down upon his destruction and felt satisfied. With both Noelle and Yuno taken care of by that dragon of his, the battle was pretty much done. I guess I should take care of the crystal now. Remembering that he had no idea where the enemy crystal was and that the entire point of the tournament was to destroy the opposing team's crystal and not the mage's, Grimm flashed in front of his team's crystal. Grimm! David and Selena gasped in union. Yo! He wave! Breath of wind, 4th form, rising dust storm. Glowing green underneath the crystal, several blades of wind suddenly shot up and cut the crystal into pieces. Asterisk ding! Asterisk asterisk ding! Asterisk asterisk ding! Asterisk! Team P win! The announcer yelled. What? Was the response of everyone watching. Why Yuno's team won? Asta stuttered. He destroyed his own crystal. He forfeited the match. A Magic Knight suddenly yelled angrily. He's looking down on the importance of this competition. Does he have no shame? So many people fought so hard to protect their own crystals. So why did a disrespectful bastard like him make it this far? Enraged by Grimm's action of throwing the match, the Magic Knights on the viewing platform voiced their complaints. Julius on the other hand just shook his head. From what he knew about Grimm's personality, now that he had fought the people he had wanted to fight, this tournament no longer held any value to him. And what was more in his character? To take his time looking for the enemy crystal or just destroying his own. What an interesting boy. Battlefield. Why you destroyed the wrong crystal? Selena screeched looking at the broken pieces of their crystal. It wasn't the wrong one. What? Why would you destroy our one? Shrugging his shoulders, Grimm slowly started levitating off the ground. I didn't want to drag this out for longer than it needed to be. And besides, you guys are royal knights now, you're welcome. You want us to thank you? After what you just did? Want you? No, I expect you to do it. I seeing the arrogant look on his face, Selena felt her face flush red as her to argue quickly diminished. Thank you. What is wrong with me? Why am I lowering my head? Hat. Seeing her bowed head, Grim couldn't help but chuckle and look at David. And contrary to his expectations, David had no problem thanking him. In truth, he knew that his magic was wildly unpredictable and that without Grim his chances of becoming a magic knight were drastically lower. After getting the thanks he wanted, Grim took to the skies and faced the recording magic tool. Using Roast no Jutsu again, he came up with some bullshit excuse as to why he destroyed his team's crystal. Something about how destroying it showed the upper class his rebellious spirit or some generic shit like that. These people are way too easy to trick. I don't know whether I should worry for this kingdom's future or not. Creator's thoughts. Errata. And the tournament arc is finally over. elfarc.we.com. Not sure how you guys feel about Grim destroying his own crystal, but I think it was in line with his character. And lol, he finessed the common people again. This guy could get away with murder at this rate. Chapter 108, Grim's popular phase. A few days had passed since the tournament had ended. During this time several changes took place within the kingdom. One of these changes included the way in which Grim's name was spread across the country. After showcasing his savage strength and dominating presence against the Magic Knight nobles, Grim's popularity seemed to have hit its peak as there was not a single commoner who didn't know of him. As a result of this, the restaurant that Rebecca worked at also became famous once it was known that Grim used to work there. The boss of the restaurant even capitalized on Grim popularity and started selling Grim figurines. He made a killing. The next thing worth mentioning was the fact that Grim now had a dedicated fan club. Apparently, that arrogant nature of his held a certain charm that seemed to be a big turn-on for a lot of women in the Clover Kingdom. Seeing a noble like Nabra openly submit to him despite the difference in status caused something inside of them to just click. But what was really weird was the fact that several noble women were secret members and even provided funds for the organization. To them, Grim was something never seen before, he was something new. His power, his arrogance, his passion for battle, everything about him was just so wild and different from what they were used to seeing. The three most replayed scenes from the tournament were the moments in which Grim interacted with both Nabra and Selena. From the way he looked down on both women to the way he touched them and commanded them, every second of these scenes drove these noble women crazy with desire. It was to the point that some of them discussed ways in which they wanted him to ravage them. On the other hand of the spectrum, there were several noblemen who couldn't stand Grim's public mockery of the hierarchy. Many called for his head and even sought for an audience with the king. But after experiencing Grim's attitude firsthand, the king wanted nothing more to do with that boy lest he lead him into a deeper state of depression. With no one else to go to, the nobles made a decision to air their grievances to the chairman of the Magic Council Damnatio Kira. While everyone was celebrating the Royal Night Tournament, night had already fallen and Grim had decided to see what the people of the capital did during the late hours. Hopping from roof to roof, Grim watched with interest as he saw street performers playing a show, restaurants popping with cheers and loud music. Looks like everyone's having a good time. Enjoying the atmosphere, Grim kept watching what people were doing until he suddenly came upon an interesting conversation. Standing a busy street corner, two commoners, one with blonde hair and the other with brown, stood at a street corner looking at the other side of the road. "I just can't do it, man." The brown-haired man sighed. "C'mon, sure you can. Just close your eyes when you're back there." His friend encouraged. "It's not that. She's just what? Ugly? Fat?" Looking over at the scantily dressed woman on the other side of the road, the brown-haired man frowned slightly. "She's just kinda dumb." "What? Of course she is. Why do you think she's so cheap? And it's not like she's going to run your finances for you. Plus this is the devil's threesome we're talking about. Do you really want to miss it just because she's an idiot?" "No. But I've got to have some kind of integrity, you know. I mean, you can't even have a conversation with the broad. And I think my wife is starting to catch on to what we're doing. You worry too much. No one's gonna find out." The blonde man tried comforting his friend. "You don't understand." The brown-haired man shook his head. "Someone told my wife that they saw me on this corner last week." "Sigh, all right then, I guess I'll have to do this one alone, again." Hearing the pause in his friend's tone, the brown-haired man looked at his friend for a minute before responding. "Are you really trying to guilt-trip me for not having a threesome?" "No, but you always back out at this last minute, remember the fishing trip?" "Oakman. That was totally not my fault. My wife stabbed me." "Yeah, but you still backed out of the trip." "I was bleeding to death." "I sigh, you're right. The brown-haired man relented and put his hands on his friend's shoulder. Seeing his friend looking so down, the blonde-haired dude hardened his resolve. You know what, let's do it. What? Seriously? He friend raised his head in surprise. Yeah, let's go bang that cheap hooker together. You mean it? Yeah. Nodding to each other, the two men approached the woman on the other side of the road and the three of them disappeared into a dark alley. Standing atop a building and watching the entire thing play out, Grim had a puzzling look on his face. I get that they're friends and all, but is it normal to want to do that with a friend? Shaking his head and putting in the incident behind him, he flew up into the air and towards the noble district. Bored of listening to others' conversations, he decided to walk the streets of the capital and take in the sights. So this is the noble district at. It's quite clean. In a couple of days, those who passed the Royal Knight exam would be meeting up with the Wizard King for a briefing and strategy meeting. Until that time came, Grim decided to do something he very rarely did, relax. Good evening, sir. A woman's voice called out to him. He raised his head. A woman in her late 30s/early 40s with a beautiful face. She was wearing a beautiful dark red dress that fit her tantalizing slim body and big milkers. Her long brown hair was tied into a braid and hung down loosely in front of her shoulder. A/N, basically it's the mom hairstyle from anime, you know the one I'm on about. Looking at him, the woman's face reddened slightly as her eyes looked at him shyly. You. Gulp, you're the one from the tournament. You're Grim? She asked wearily. While it wasn't strange for someone to know about him after all the noise he made during the tournament, he couldn't help but frown in confusion since he didn't know this woman. Excuse me. Can you come with me please? She said shyly. What? I would like you to accompany me to a social gathering as my guest. Creator's thoughts. Errata. Grim's famous. And if any of you have seen the Konosuba movie you'll get the title reference. Chapter 109, Ballroom. What am I doing here? Standing in the middle of a ballroom looking extremely out of place, Grim was surrounded by the women of high society. Wow, is this who I think it is? You've really outdone yourself, Mariella. As the ladies stroked his chest and touched up his body, the women who brought him here, Mariella was showing off to her friends. TCH. Watching their mothers, aunts, and other female family members throwing their affection in Grim's direction, the men at the ballroom was starting to become restless. Damn peasant! How dare someone of his stature show up here? Ahem. Walking up to Mariella, an older gentleman whose hair was slowly turning grey held out his hand and shot Grim an aggressive glance before showing off a gentle smile. Mariella, my dear, would you do me the honor of being my partner for this next dance? Caught off guard by his sudden proposal, Mariella was momentarily taken aback but quickly calmed herself down. Of course, Sir Al. Taking hold of her outstretched hand, Grim placed his hand around her waist and pulled her closer to himself. Oh! She raised her eyebrow and looked at the young man. Didn't you promise me the next dance? What? The surrounding women gasped. You. Gritting his teeth, the older gentleman wanted nothing more than to kill Grim then and there. Trying to steal my dance partner right in front of me? Even if you have seniority, don't you think you're being a bit rude? Grim asked innocently. Seniority? Anger by Grim's indirect way of calling him old, the man was about to blow up. How dare you accuse me of? Sir Alec-Dalla. Mariella cut in. My apologies for my companion's words, but as he has stated, I had promised to give him the next dance. I see. Feeling the gazes of all those around him, Alec-Dalla had no choice but to back off lest he lose face. I just hope your husband will not mind you prancing around with a man of such low birth. Low birth? Did this old sack of shit just try to diss me? No need to worry about that. Mariella smiled sweetly. Very well. Seeing that he wasn't getting anywhere with this conversation, he bowed slightly to Mariella and the other ladies before throwing a dirty look Grim's way and leaving. Hey Mariella! Grim suddenly called. Does this guy have a wife? Standing in the middle of the ballroom with all eyes on them, Grim and Mariella faced each other as the music slowly began. Taking hold of her hand, Grim took a step forward as Mariella took a step back. This boy. He knows what he's doing. Having used Key in the transparent world to observe the people in the ballroom, Grim had already figured out the nuances involved in these dances. Adding on breath of water on top of that to enhance his mobility, what took these people years of tireless training was comprehended and replicated by Grimm in an instance. Moving in accordance to the music, the two seemed to be lost in their own world as they spun and circled around the ballroom floor, calling attention to themselves through their actions. "You never told me you could dance," she whispered into his ear. "You never told me you had a husband." He grinned back. "You never asked." She smiled. "Touché, where is he anyway?" "See that middle-aged gentleman talking to Sir Alec Dalla on the left?" Moving in a way that allowed him to see what was happening on the left-hand side of the room, Grimm saw a brown-haired man in his mid-50s holding a glass of wine and glaring at him. "Is that him?" "Mm." She nodded. "How do you think he feels seeing his wife dancing with someone he considers beneath him?" "Who knows?" She answered calmly. "I'm sure he'd rather be spending his time with one of his many mistresses." "Oh? Is that jealousy I hear?" Pausing for a moment, she looked deeply into Grimm's eyes. "My marriage was arranged by my parents. This entire marriage is nothing more than a mere pretense to keep our families connected. I did my best. I fulfilled my obligations as a good wife without ever falling in love. For my family. I sacrificed my love, my happiness, my freedom. I bore that man his heirs, supported him in every endeavor and did everything possible to raise a family that he could be proud of. But still, it wasn't enough. No matter what I did, no matter how hard I worked, he would always go to one of his mistresses. 1 year ago I finally had enough and confronted him about his behavior, but instead of regret or even trying to explain why he did what he did, he accused me of not being good enough. Ha, he even said that it was my fault that he was cheating in the first place." Feeling her grip tighten on his hands, Grimm's facial expression stayed the same as he said. "Is that so? So you're jealous that he's living the way he wants while you're stuck playing the role of the perfect wife?" He continued. "What? Am I wrong? Isn't that why you invited me here tonight? To make him jealous? I have no idea what you're talking about." Pulling her in close, he shut her up by covering her mouth with his own. Gasp! Seeing the obscene sight of Grimm kissing a married woman, many noble ladies felt their heart skip a beat and heart-shaped symbols appeared in their eyes. He's kissing me. In front of my peers and husband. While the kiss was anything deep and more like a peck, it was more than enough to take her breath away. Feeling him pull back and separate their lips from each other, Mariella couldn't help but feel her face flush red as she looked into his beautiful yellow eyes. Unlike on the battlefield where they usually had a savage glint in them, the look in his eyes right now conveyed an indescribable amount of warmth and comfort that she had never thought possible. It was enough to make her weak in the knees. "How was that? Feel like you've gotten back at him a little?" In all honesty, that was Grimm's first kiss since arriving in this world. And while his own experience might not have been much, he was able to subconsciously draw on the experience on his previous lives to not seem too amateurish. Combined with the scenery and situation, he was sure that he had left a deep impression in Mariella's heart. Finally managing to settle herself a bit, just as Mariella was about to speak, the pace of the music suddenly changed. Increasing the speed in which they danced, Mariella matched his timing and started speaking in a hushed tone. "Why'd you that? Do you know what will happen to me now?" Smirking at her attempt to reprimand him, he continued dancing while twirling her around. "You wanted to make him jealous, didn't you? I want to make him even more jealous." "What? Are you out of your min?" Just like before, Grimm shut her up by placing his lips over hers. But unlike the last time, this kiss wasn't just a peck. Feeling his tongue intertwine with hers, she yet again felt another rush of helplessness, the sinking yielding, the surging tide of warmth that left her body feeling limp and devoid of energy. Slowly becoming intoxicated in this feeling of warmth and passion, Mariella didn't even realize that Grimm's face was becoming blurred and drowned into nothingness. Bending her head back, he kissed her softly at first, but unable to deny his nature as a beast, that soft and gentle kiss quickly escalated in intensity that made her cling to him as the only solid thing in a dizzying world. Using his tongue to part her lips and explore the deep crevices of her mouth, her body quivered as he sent wild tremors throughout her body, evoking sensations she had never known she was capable of feeling. And before she knew it, she had her arms wrapped around the back of his neck and was kissing him back. Creator's thoughts. Errata. A drama-filled chapter. After writing nothing but action recently, I felt like this was a nice little break, filler, before we get to the elf arc. Grimm upgraded talk no jutsu, charm no jutsu real quick. And if you've read my MHAFF, you know that I have a MILF preference, hence Mariella and the other ladies. FYI, if I saw a 10/10ths MILF wearing a nun outfit, I would die happily. Chapter 110, Leading. Pulling away from her once again, Grimm saw that Mariella's eyes seemed to have glazed over and become unfocused. Damn, that was my second time kissing someone and she's already lost in the bliss. Sending over a mocking smile in Alec-Dalla's and Mariella's husband's direction, Grimm carried the dizzy woman over towards the other ladies he had previously been surrounded by. Placing her down on a chair, he planned to leave her here to recover. Sir Grimm. A middle-aged noblewoman abruptly called out to him. Hearing his name being called, Grimm turned his head to look in that woman's direction. Badam. The moment their eyes met, the woman suddenly found herself short of breath as she felt her heart skip a beat as those yellow eyes of his seemed to mark her. Unlike with the other noblemen that she was used to dealing with, the look in Grimm's eyes gave her the feeling that he was a predator looking at a piece of meat. And for the first time in her life, this usually arrogant noblewoman was at a loss for words. I just wanted to know if I could also dance with you. She asked in a quiet voice. Dance with me? Feeling the piercing gazes of the rest of the noblemen standing on the other side of the room, Grimm felt the corners of his lips moving upwards. It'll be your honor. Taking him by his outstretched hand, the woman's face flushed red. Me next. Me too. I want to dance with you to Sir Grimm. Hearing all the ladies desire to dance with him, he sent another mocking gaze towards the nobleman. That night, Grimm danced with 90% of the noble women there. What was shocking though was his stamina. One after the other, he danced without taking a break and made sure that he gave each woman an equal amount of time. And of course, he made sure to tongue wrestle with them in front of their husbands and fiancés. Watching him engage and feel up their spouses, the nobleman attending the ball wanted nothing more than to cut Grimm up into a million little pieces. But after watching how he treated nobility during the tournament and hearing the rumors about his base-hopping exploits, they had no choice other than to watch since they couldn't beat him in a fight. Ha, pussies! Grimm laughed loud enough for them to hear him. Clench! Hearing his comments, the noblemen could only swallow their anger and hang their heads low. Being so used to living in comfort, these fuckers didn't have any combat experience nor did they even know how to properly use their magic. What a waste of mana! Once he was done with his current dance partner, Grimm whispered some words into her ears before walking towards Alec-Dalla and Mariella's husband. Seeing him coming over, both men put up their guard. Walking up to them, Grimm merely nodded his head and greeted them by saying kooks before walking right past them and holding his hand out to Alec-Dalla's wife. May I have this dance? Sitting in front of him holding a glass full of wine was a pale blonde-haired woman around the age of 45 but with the body of a woman in her late 20s. Wearing a tight-looking strapless purple dress that accented her ample bosom, the woman gave off what Grimm's fractured memories referred to as milfy vibes as her mature charms drew him in. You want to dance with me? She chuckled after hearing his offer. Is that problem? Grimm smiled. She hummed before looking at Alec-Dalla. What do you think, dear husband? Should I dance with this low-born trash? Hearing that word low-born again, the smile on Grimm's face stayed motionless as not a single hint of emotion could be seen. At first he wanted to dance with her in order to embarrass Alec-Dalla, but after hearing the way Alec-Dalla's wife referred to him as, he decided to change up his plan a little. Seeing his wife looking at him, the prideful Alec-Dalla actually turned away as to not meet her eyes. Well. Whatever you think is best. He stuttered, refusing to look at her before walking away with Mariella's husband. Is that so? His wife chuckled before looking back at Grimm and taking his hand. But before she could reach it, he suddenly pulled it back and with a smile on his face he said. Sorry, but now that I think about it, I don't want to dance with you. What? The woman's eyes went wide. What do you mean you don't want to dance with me? Well. I just don't think you'd be able to keep up with me. Keep up with you? You arrogant piece of human gar. Quiet bitch. Boom. Opening his eyes a little bitch, an invisible pressure seemed to burst out of him and slam into her. Gya. Suddenly finding it hard to breathe, Alec-Dalla's wife grabbed the front of her dress as she looked up at the low-born trash and couldn't help but shudder when she saw those beaming yellow eyes. You called me trash earlier, didn't you? Grimm's cold voice pierced through the pressure. But tell me, what makes me trash compared to someone like you? What? She squeaked. I said what makes someone like me trash and someone like you special? In my eyes our roles are completely reversed. Gritting her teeth, the woman looked at Grimm with defiance. What do you want? She spat. Seeing that look in her eyes, Grimm smiled slightly. Let's start with a name. Valentina. Nice to meet you, Valentina, do you mind if I call you Val? Instead of answering him, she shot him a murderous gaze. Val it is then. He grinned before offering his hand out again. Let's dance now. Staring at his hand for a moment, she eventually looked up at him. I thought you said I wouldn't be able to keep up with you. Hearing her comment, Grimm chuckled softly. Don't worry, I have no expectations of you. Hearing that seemed to light a fire in Valentina as she felt like he had insulted her on a personal level. As a woman in her mid-40s, she had been to more ballroom dances than she could even count, so for a 16-year-old commoner boy to say that she wasn't able to keep up with him made her feel like he was spitting on her pride. Taking him by the hand, she pulled and rushed to the dance floor. Sorry, but I'm the one leading here. Not letting her run ahead of him, Grimm pulled her back and wrapped his arm around her waist before escorting her to the middle of the dance floor in front of her husband who was clenching his fists tightly. What do you think you're doing? Valentina growled. I didn't give you permission to touch me. Wow, the fact that you think I care is amazing. What is this boy? For the past 3 songs, Grimm and Valentina had been dancing non-stop. And while Valentina was accustomed to dancing, after 3 songs she was starting to feel her limit closing in. How can he still dance without even looking the slightest bit fatigued? So what do you say? What? Hearing Grimm's words, she was snapped back to reality. I said what's up with you and your husband? Why is he so nervous around you? That is none of your concern. True, but... Eve. Lowering his hand down slightly, he grabbed a handful of her cheeks causing her to yelp. Would you rather have me grope you or answer my question? You disgust me. And the fucks I give are still 0. He chuckled. So what's it gonna be? Seeing that he wasn't gonna let the matter go, Valentina had no choice but to answer him. My husband was born into a family whose status was lower than mine. As she explained some of the noble hierarchy to Grimm, she didn't realize it but she was becoming more and more comfortable with him as she even started talking about some personal details. Listening to her, Grimm couldn't help but think how easy it was to deal with women from nobility. Surrounded by nothing but spineless men who could do nothing but talk and flaunt their status, it was no wonder that someone like him who didn't care for status and used actions to convey his meaning would catch the interest of so many nobles. As the two danced to the pace of the music, Valentina slowly found herself starting to enjoy Grimm's company as he quietly listened to her complaints. Unlike her husband who did his best to avoid her, Grimm seemed to welcome her presence. But just as the two were about to move on to the next dance, the sight of Mariella getting up attracted Grimm's attention. Showing Val a kind smile, he apologized to her and excused himself. Watching him walk away and leave her on the dance floor only to take hold of another woman's hand. Valentina felt her body tremble. Did he just ditch me to spend time with another woman? Seeing the two of them leaving together, Valentina clenched her fists and followed after them. Creator's thoughts. Errata. Gotta love how Grimm's slowly creating chaos without actually fighting or using roast no jutsu. Random fact. Named her Valentina because I was drinking a Valentine's Day smoothie while writing. Random fact 2, so I just watched Hiluva Boss on YouTube, Pilot EP3, and I got to say, Grimm would really fit in there. After watching the prequel pilot of Hashbin Hotel and getting to see the world in more detail, I gotta say, Grimm might even thrive there. Anyway, check it out if you haven't and I'll see y'all in tomorrow's CHP. Chapter 111, A Long Night, Lemon. Grimm, I don't know if I can do this. Entering into an empty room, Grimm picked Mariella up princess style and threw her onto the neatly made bed ahead of them. Crawling up to her, he pressed his lips onto hers and gave her a deep passion-filled kiss. After swapping saliva for a bit and putting her in a more relaxed mood, he gently pulled back and put some distance between their faces before giving her a teasing smile. She froze when she locked eyes with him as her face became a deep crimson. Seeing her just silently stare at him, Grimm took her hand and slipped it into his shirt making her touch his ripped body. Do you want this? He asked in a tempting tone. Embarrassed by what was going on, she didn't know whether it was intentional or not but she tried to pull her hand back but couldn't as he held onto it tightly. Why are you afraid? Didn't you enjoy pressing up against me like this earlier? He said in a teasing voice as he moved her hand to explore his chest and abs slowly. It's not like that. She turned her head to the side and answered timidly. Oh? Then do you prefer this one? Without hesitation, he lowered her hand and slipped it into his trousers and underwear. A slight humming sound came out of his mouth when her cold hands touched his hot flesh directly. Feeling the smooth sensation of her hand wrap around her lower tool, he wasn't ashamed to show his enjoyment to her. Ah! She gasped and tried to pull her hand once more. But like he'd done before, he held her hand back and made her grab it. You felt it pressed against you earlier when we were dancing. He brought his face back to her ear and whispered. And shamelessly rubbed up against it. I whispered. Feeling his hot breath tickle her ear, she stopped pulling her hand away. When she didn't resist anymore, he released her hand and let it free to touch him. That's right, your husband had so many women do this to him, don't you think you should be free to do the same? He whispered again in a sweet voice. While his hand gently stroked the side of her neck down to her breast, he skillfully unbuttoned her shirt one by one as if he had done so countless times in the past. Slipping his hand into her bra, he gently played with her nipple and slowly squeezed it. Ngnhh. A slight moan came out of her mouth. Hearing her moan like that, he licked her earlobe and whispered. Still want to stop? Closing her eyes tightly, she shook her head. I want to continue, but it's been so long. Grabbing her by the chin and turning her head so that she would face him. He gazed into her eyes. Then let's make up for all that lost time. Giving her a teasing smile, he placed her waist between his thighs. Doing his best to hold his savage nature in check and slowly ease her into things, he bit down on her bra and pulled it down. In one pull, one of her breasts sprung from her captivity and without the slightest hint of hesitation he swallowed it. Ngnhhhh. She crumpled the bedsheet on her head's side. Flicking and sucking the tip with his tongue, he used his other hand to pull out the other breast and massage it. Listening to her moans, his thirst increased as his primal urge enhanced by his breath of the beast base quickly rose. Fiddling with his trousers, he eventually managed to pull them down and give Mariella easier access to his underwear. It's getting bigger, she said in a ragged breath. Do you want to see it? He tempted her once again. Yes, she answered shyly. Without any shame, he stood up and removed his shirt and underwear, showing off his cock that cast a large shadow over her face. Seeing such a sight caused her eyes to enlarge in surprise. Ah! It's so big. I don't know if it will fit. It will fit. He grinned as he lowered his head down to the front of her pedal. I will make it fit. Sliding her underwear to the side, he lowered his tongue and licked her wet entrance. She moaned, feeling his tongue flick across her clit. Burying his tongue into her warm pedal and wetting it with his saliva, he explored her warm inner walls. Sir Grim. No, it's weird. No. I feel weird. Twisting her body erotically, her toes curled up as she used both of her hands to cover her blushing face. Since this world was akin to the medieval era of Earth, the concept of pleasuring a woman had not yet been implemented in society. Forgetting that, just the thought of using your tongue to go down on a woman had not been heard of, this was Mariella's very first time experiencing such intense pleasure. Ignoring her moans, he continued to lick her until he was satisfied, letting the sweet taste of nectar from her liquid fill his mouth. He felt her inner walls twitch and loosen up, ready to accept his cock. Pulling his mouth back that was dripping with her juices, he crawled up to her and rubbed his cock in front of her entrance. I can't. It's too much. Smiling at her embarrassed expression, Grim pried her legs open. And without warning, he entered her in one motion. Screamed in pleasure. So tight. He beamed. She really wasn't kidding about not doing this in a while. Feeling the squishy tightness of her insides, Mariella's sweet honey pot fully swallowed his member. If he had to describe the feeling of losing his virginity, he would describe it as him sticking his dick into a hot, wet tunnel filled with soft bumps and incredible suction power. This feeling brings back memories. Suddenly recalling similar experiences from his past lives, a plethora of knowledge seemed to well up inside of him before bursting like a fountain and filling him with thousands upon thousands of years of sexual experience. Nay. Listening to her moans caused his patience to quickly run out as he held her down by the wrists and raised his hips. Feeling him slide out of her, Mariella opened her eyes to look at him. What are you doing, kyah? Suddenly slamming his hips back down with full force, the light in Grim's eyes seemed to become unhinged as his reasoning seemed to vanish and his bestial instincts took over. It was quite the aggressive move, but he didn't care anymore. This feeling of something tightly wrapped around his dick awakened the beast in him. And once it was out, there was no going back. Asterisk thwack. Asterisk asterisk thwack. Asterisk asterisk thwack. Asterisk. Mercilessly slamming his cock into her pussy noisily. Mariella squirted out juices, which caused her to be surprised and embarrassed. Yet, even if she wanted to pull away shamefully, he wouldn't let her. As her pussy filled with her own natural lubricants, it became even easier for him to jackhammer her. Ha! No! She cooed out. Feeling her pussy grip him even tighter and watching as her breasts swayed back and forth rhythmically from the pounding, each thrust brought out a sweet pleasured moan as she was driven deeper into a state of indescribable pleasure. Grabbing her by the hips and humping her like a savage, her lewd scents filled the air, and she soon couldn't stop herself from letting out moans. Ah, yes sir. Grim, this feels so good. Don't stop. Please don't stop. The bed shook from their wild mating, and with her husband being only a few rooms away, the situation seemed to stimulate both of them further as leaned even into her and increased his speed even further. It's, ha. Ha, feels good. Yes, right there, right there. She cried, almost drooling. Grunting in response, Mariella felt something wrong. He was actually getting bigger inside of her. Aig. A scandalous erotic voice came out of her mouth as her body jerked in surprise. Losing his mind, losing his human side, that wild side of him that craved chaos and destruction took over. Asterisk thwack. Asterisk 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 asterisk thwack. Asterisk. Og Grim, ah, ha. Grim. Oh Grim. She constantly called out his name. As if responding to the call of his name, he continued to grind her, making her pedal burning hot, and making her forget about her husband, her children, everything. All that she could focus on was the sound of the clashing of their flesh and the sound of her own moans. Ah. Something's coming ah. Angug. Grunting louder than before, Grim suddenly picked up the pace. Ang. Grim. Oh. Her body raised slightly as he fired his semen inside her. Ugh. He groaned in pleasure. Still lost in the bliss of shooting his first ever load in this life, he didn't know how long this state of tranquility lasted as Mariella's pussy clenched onto him tightly as if it was trying to wring out every last drop he had to spare. Outside the room. Schlick schlick schlick. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Slamming the door to the room open, a red-faced Valentina whose hands were playing with one of her breasts while the other was up her dress jumped back in surprise as she saw a savage-looking Grim who seemed to have grown in stature and had what looked like steam escaping from his mouth. Hi Grim. Was the only thing she could say when she saw his throbbing member pointing at her. Ballroom. Listening to the end of another song, Alec Dalla and Mariella's husband clapped in applause at the band's performance. Bravo! Bravo! They cheered. Excuse me. A woman's voice sounded out behind them. Turning around and taking a look at the woman, the two realized that she was the one that Grim had whispered something to earlier. Grim told me to give you this once the seventh song had finished. Handing the two of them a napkin, the woman blushed slightly as she speed-walked in the direction that Grim, Mariella and Valentina had disappeared in. Frowning at her actions, the two opened the napkin to see what was written there. While you guys are clapping your hands to the sound of music, I'll be busy clapping the cheeks of your wives to the sound of our own music XD. Creator's thoughts. Errata. We did it, it took 111 CHPS but we finally got to see Grim lose his virginity. Number MILF sect. Oh. And I haven't written an R18 chapter since my RWBYFF phase so I'm pretty rusty. Hopefully it wasn't too terrible. I'll try to get back on the level of my RWBYFF R18 chapters in the future. And did you guys see Asta's new form in CHP 282? My god. I say this with no shame, it made me hard AF. No wonder it was trending on Twitter. My hype levels are through the roof. Happy Valentine's Day. Chapter 112, Unrelenting, Lemon. Ah. Grim so good. She called out his name breathlessly as her body jerked in excitement, her eyes closed tightly, holding back the pleasure mixed with pain from her lower area. Feeling her chest pressed against his, Valentina was hoisted up by Grimm's strong manly hands and was staring into the eyes of the most dominant man and beast of a cock she had ever known. She cried out in fear at Grimm's beast-like expression before she felt the mushroomed head slide into her again. Thwack 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 thwack. Ah! She screamed in delight. Forcing his way deeper and deeper into Valentina's cunt, her uncontrolled and passionate screams mixed with her pleasure-laden moans reverberated throughout the entire room as Grimm continued his assault on her soaking wet pussy. While his beast might have been let out of its cage, the man fucking her was still Grimm and still had some of Grimm's tendencies. This could be seen as he paused several times to watch as Valentina's face twisted and struggled to deal with the pain, pleasure, and understanding that this commoner boy would probably be the greatest fuck she'd ever have. Slowly the thrusts increased in pace until the only sounds heard were the smacks of their hips, the wet sound of her insides being pounded, and the short sharp burst of breath as she tried to deal with the invader motoring its way in and out of her. Good so good. This continued until the usually haughty Valentina became nothing more than a drooling mess who could do nothing more than cling to Grimm's back as he fucked her with reckless abandon. Each breath she took became desperate and sharp as they started to sync up in time with each pile-driving thrust of Grimm's hips. It was unknown at what time it happened, but at some point Valentina began seeing stars and started to come like she had never come before as Grimm continued to hold her in the air while hitting places deep inside her with every strong animalistic thrust. Their moans of pleasure and her screams intertwining as they fucked ceaselessly. She screamed and cried again and again as Grimm hit home again and again remorselessly. Valentina could only hold on tightly to Grimm's body as she was plunged up and down over his cock like a trained porn star before she came again, pussy juices running down his dick and balls, dripping onto the floor as she began to fall in and out of consciousness through sheer ecstasy. Feeling her body go limp in his arms, Grimm let out a grunt as he dropped her on the floor. Not enough. I'm not satisfied. Gripping both sides of her head, a dangerous light flashed through his eyes as he pried her mouth open. Squeak. Hearing the sound of the door open a little, Grimm's head snapped to the side as he saw several red-faced noblewomen staring at his naked figure. As he turned to look at these ladies, his still erect sword smacked the loosely conscious Valentina across the face and knocked her out cold. Ha ha! Ha! Clapping the 68th noblewoman from the back, Grimm felt her insides tighten up as she let out an ear-piercing scream before passing out on top one of the previous 67 noblewomen. Tossing her to the side, Grimm stood up and walked towards the last noblewoman who hadn't collapsed yet. Watching him coming over with eyes filled with awe and wonder, the last woman stripped herself of those pesky clothes and got down on all fours. Wiggling her butt in his direction, a smile crossed her face when she saw his dick jerk up. Still in a state of extreme horniness, Grimm grabbed the woman's hips and plunged into her. Eep. The woman yelped. While she might have been wet from watching him aggressively fuck the past 68 women, nothing could prepare her for this. Slow ha, down. Ignoring her and thrusting into her harder, he suddenly grabbed the back of her hair and pulled. Moans of pleasure leaked out of her mouth as her eyes rolled into the back of her head. Slamming into her even harder than before, the woman's body trembled as she experienced a tense orgasm. Grunting loudly, Grimm still felt unsatisfied as he pulled on her hair and shot his load deep into her womb. The woman dropped face first onto the floor and shuddered, still feeling her orgasm. Pulling out of her, Grimm stood over the woman and looked down at her with those scary yellow eyes of his. How is he still so hard? Seeing that he hadn't calmed down yet, the woman did her best to smile as she spread her ass cheeks apart. My vagina can't take any more, but you can use the other hole if you want. Seeming to understand her, a light flashed through his eyes as he lifted her ass higher into the air and positioned his cock at the entrance of her asshole. Lubed up from his semen and her vaginal juices, her little butthole winked at him. Taking that as an invitation, he forced his way in. The woman raised a scream as her body froze from the sudden invasion. Though her asshole was really tight, much tighter than her pussy, and squeezed his dick as if wanting to tear it apart, the fluids covering his cock made the penetration a bit easier. It's too big! She cried. Take it out! Take it out! Grabbing her by the shoulders, he ignored her complaints and started ramming his dick into her as aggressively as he could. Smacking against her cheeks loudly, the sound of his balls slapping against her swollen cunt echoed across the entire room as her wet pussy juices splashed all over the lavish carpet. Good, it feels good. The woman below him moaned out. Hearing her moans and smelling the lewd scent of sex that clung to the air, Grim relished in the feeling of pleasure and domination as he continued to pound the woman like she was nothing more than a hole to unleash his lust upon. Trapped under him, the woman experienced the full weight of Grim's aggressive thrusts and felt her body lose any semblance of control she had left. Howling in complete erotic pleasure, her body shook as she kept coming as he pumped her good. As she experienced more and more orgasms than she ever thought possible, snot, tears, and drool fell from her face while her eyes rolled up in her head. Unable to hold it back any longer, he gave it one last thrust before semen started gushing out of him like a geyser as an extreme state of pleasure washed over his whole body. Creator's thoughts. Errata. Nothing much to say today, hope this lemon was better written compared to the previous one. Chapter 113, Grim's Thoughts. Breathing heavily after going another round with the ones who had woken back up, Grim looked at the 69 women passed out in the room. Taking a closer look at them, he noticed that each of them had bite marks somewhere on their bodies and looks of satisfaction spread across their faces. Did I mark my territory? Having come to his senses properly, he couldn't help but appreciate the sight in front of him. Looks like having breath of the beast as my base was more beneficial than I thought. Increasing his stamina and primal urges, Grim felt himself brimming with power as he could probably go a couple more rounds if need be. While sex couldn't compare to the satisfaction he felt when he crushed those who opposed him, he had to say that wouldn't mind experiencing it again in the future. Not to mention how light his body felt at the moment. Since this was his first ever sexual encounter, the year's worth of cum stored in his body came flooding out all at once, giving him the feeling of relaxation and loosening the tension his body had accumulated over time. Putting his clothes back on, he couldn't help but wonder what was going on in the ballroom. About half of the noble women from the night were in this room with him while the other half were in the ballroom. Surely someone would have noticed by now? Not to mention that he even left a note. Not because he wanted to show off or anything, he was just curious to see how they would react if they knew that their wives were cheating on them with someone they considered trash. Creating chaos and watching it unfold before his eyes, could anything be more interesting than that? That being said, he wasn't entirely sure how much these nobles understood from his note. Shrugging his shoulders, he tidied himself up a little and left the room by flying out of the window. Feeling the wind brush against his face as he flew high above the clouds, a sly smile crept onto his face as he knew that he had given all the women he fucked an unforgettable experience. Despite this being his first time, he could tell that he had gained more political power in the Clover Kingdom. He already had the commoners on his side, adding half of the women from nobility on top of that almost doubled his influence in one fell swoop. And considering the fact that some of these women had more power than their husbands, he had no reason to worry about their retaliation. While he may not care about what happened to the Clover Kingdom in general, having this much political power was quite exciting. Even though he believed that violence was the answer to everything, fucking with people mentally was fun in its own way. Especially if he knew that he could get away with it. Jail? Ha! With so many nobles backing him now, that was no longer a concern. A/N, corruption at its best. Flying through the air without a care in the world, he thought back on the Royal Knight tournament. Out of everyone he had fought, only 4 people were able to take him head-on. Asta, working with Noel and Langris. Although he could remove Langris from the list since he already seen through his weakness, the other 3 were still problematic. While Noel wasn't too outstanding at the moment, he could tell that her potential would carry her much further than this. Not that he was worried or anything, if she got stronger than she was now he'd simply beat her back into the dirt and remind her of her place. Asta on the other hand was difficult to understand. Since anti-magic seemed to be its own thing, Grim couldn't predict the way in which he could expand upon it. Right now his weakness was that he could only fight if he was in melee distance. And while he could throw his Demon Dweller sword like that time he did to Ladros, he had no way to get the sword back if he missed. If he ever got any ranged attacks, his enemies would be in for a difficult time. That being said, if Asta ever managed to gain an ability like that, he may actually be able to fight Grim on an even playing field. Just the thought of that happening had Grim's heart racing in anticipation. Was also a special case as he was aided by the power of a spirit. Adding on the fact that he was a possessor of a 4-leaf clover, Grim couldn't even begin to imagine just how far he could go. Spirit Dive or whatever it was called boosted his power to the point that it was capable of competition with a captain for a short time. That kind of raw untapped potential was honestly scary. If it weren't for the fact that he had no way to deal with any close-range fighters, Grim felt that he could have had a really good one-on-one fight with him. Looks like I'm not the only one improving. I need to train harder. Moving on from that, something suddenly occurred to him. What if they become pregnant? Thinking about it logically, the amount he released inside of the noble women from the party would have any fertile women popping out babies 9 months later. Shit. Am I about to become a dad? No. I'm overthinking things. From my memories of Earth, I'm pretty sure a past version of me read somewhere that elves had a hard time reproducing. Fuck. I'm half human. Fuck. Phew. Wait a second. Why am I panicking? If they're pregnant, then the nobles will take care of them. They'll have easy lives. And if they have my genes, they'll be prodigies. Ha! No responsibility is great. Laughing to himself, the thought that him being half human half elf meant that the chances of those women becoming pregnant was a literal 50/50 was hilarious. It was basically a fight between his elf and human genes. And not matter which one won, he'd come out on top. 69 kids with his genes? Wouldn't they be great opponents in the future? Hey! Screeching to a halt in mid-air, he felt a weird fluctuation of mana emanating from below. What the hell? Floating out of its holster, his grimoire starting humming violently and glowing silver. The fuck? Having never seen his grimoire react like this before, Grimm's face suddenly became serious as he looked towards the location he felt that weird pulse of mana. Looking back at his grimoire that was still humming and glowing, he decided to check out what was making his grimoire act up. Creator's thoughts. Errata. Responsibility, hello there. Grimm, miss me with that shit. Also, if you guys like this FF, I recommend Black Clover, reincarnated as Sec. It's funny AF and I guarantee that the first chapter will have you doing your best to suppress your laughter. Honestly loving that BCFF are growing more popular. Only criticism I have is that most, not reincarnated as Sec or mine, have their MCS be as strong as captains from the get-go or very early on. Not saying it's a bad thing, but I personally think it limits their growth and makes it harder for them to interact with the original main characters of BC since they're on completely different levels of power. And now that I think about it, when they start off strong they don't really act their age. At least with Grimm you can tell he's teenager, albeit with some serious issues. Oh. And as you guys have guessed, Grimm won't be doing anything to Charlotte or Vanessa because as I writer I respect Yami too much, don't kook Yami. And besides, they've liked Yami for years, having them suddenly fall for some random 16-year-old who's only been a magic knight for a little over 6 months is stupid. Chapter 114, Playing in the Streets. Descending down from the sky and landing in a dark alleyway. Grimm closed his eyes and used his mana sensing ability to pinpoint the exact location the mana fluctuations were originating from. There. Snapping his eyes open, he stuffed his hands in his pockets and walked out onto the streets. Yo Grimm! It's him! Our hero! Down with nobility! Recognizing him, a few commoners waved at him while shouting their support. Smiling and waving at them, he did his best to greet them while not stopping. Keeping to himself and trying not to let his grimoire go flying off, he walked under the moonlit sky with a small smile hanging off his face. You can come out now. Walking through an empty street, the sound of the wind echoed out as the shadows seemed to come alive. How'd you find us? A voice sounded out from all around. Who knows? He shrugged. Maybe I'm psychic or something. Falling silent, the voice seemed to contemplate something. So who are you guys? Stalkers? Obsessive fans? Or maybe you're assassins? Talking casually, not a speck of worry could be seen on Grimm's face as he seemed to be enjoying himself. Now as exciting as this is, I'm a little busy at the moment, so could we wait until I'm finished with my business? Rumble. In response to his question, the air seemed to shiver as several hooded figures appeared out of nowhere. Oh. He raised an eyebrow. That wasn't spatial magic. Putting that thought aside for the time being, he gave the assassins a quick head count. Really? Is this all? I've gotta say, I'm a bit disappointed. Instead of answering him, the hooded figures put their arms behind them and pulled out several knives, cleavers, and other similar weapons. Seriously? I know this a little hypocritical of me to say, but we live in a world full of magic and you fuckers are using fucking kitchen tools to kill someone? Are you motherfuckers retarded or something? I'd give you a pass if they were enhanced by magic or something, but this is just fucking embarrassing. Like holy shit, I wouldn't wanna be you guys right now. Hearing Grimm make fun of their weapons, some of the assassins started to feel self-conscious. This feeling only became worse when Grimm materialized one of his swords and said, "Look, mine's longer." Oh my god, are you carrying fucking scissors? I am well. And you? He shifted his attention to another assassin. Are you wearing face paint? It was my daughter's birthday. Oh shit, how old is she? She just turned 4. The assassin said proudly. Damn, she ain't a baby anymore. I know, they grow up so fast. It feels like it was just yesterday that all she could say was Dada. You and your wife must be really proud. Smiling sadly, the assassin showed a pained expression. My wife died during childbirth. But I've made sure my daughter has everything she needs. Well, ain't that just the most wholesome thing I've heard all night? It's a shame though. What is? That I'm about to make your child an orphan. What? Everyone run! The disembodied voice suddenly yelled. Too late. Breath of wind, 4th form, rising dust storm. Creating a glowing green disk under their feet, Grim watched as his spell did its thing. Ember. Was the last thing that the assassin father said before the spell activated. Slash. 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 Without taking a single step, Grim managed to kill every assassin sent after him within a matter of seconds. Yo Mr. Announcer dude! He called out to the disembodied voice. I think your friends are dead. He joked. Oh? You've gone real quiet all of a sudden. Cat got your tongue or something? Ignoring me at? Well, that's fine, you'll be singing really loud real soon. Kaya. Holding a one-armed middle-aged man up by his neck, Grim's outfit was stained in blood as his beast sword dripped with red liquid. Now then. He smiled. Which nobleman sent you? After giving him a couple of light taps, Grim had the assassin spilling all the man details about the man who paid them to get rid of him. Crash. Dropping the one-armed assassin on the ground, Grim crouched down so the two weren't too far away from the other. So, what's your magic? Gritting his teeth, the assassin raised his head and stared him down. Smiling at his expression, Grim's eyes went down to stare at his remaining arm. I illusion magic. The man stuttered. Oh? So that's how you made those guys appear out of nowhere. Understanding how he did it, Grim couldn't help but nod to himself. But how did you know I was gonna show up here? Even I didn't know I was gonna come here. Seeing that he was refusing to answer, the assassin watched as Grim's head tilted to the side and his smile grew wider. Don't you just love symmetry? Feeling his arm ache, the expression on the assassin's face darkened. We were put a tracking device on you at the party. So they've been following me since from back then. I see. He laughed. Well, time to get rid of you. Hearing him, the assassin's eyes shook as he clenched his remaining fist and thrust it at the now standing Grim. Die scumbag! Illusion creation magic, fear incarnate. What are you doing? Seeing that nothing happened, the assassin felt his whole body turn cold. I am possible. Why you don't fear anything? Not understanding what he meant, Grim placed his foot on the man's head and slowly exerted force. Fear? The fuck's that? Crack. Creator's thoughts. Errata errata. What can I even say, Grim the Orphan Maker. Chapter 115, Let's play a game. Name. Grim. Favorite animal. The one with the sharpest fangs. Is that a joke? It's as real as the blood on my shirt. Sitting in a dark room surrounded by books, weird symbols, and strange sounds, Grim sat around a table opposite a woman in wearing golden bangles, a mouth mask and a hood that covered some strange tiara-like ornament. In front of them was a small crystal ball. How long is this gonna take? As long as it needs to. The woman answered, focusing her attention on the crystal ball. You know I could just take the stone, right? Then why don't you? Leaning forward, he took a closer look at the crystal ball and smiled. Call it curiosity. Oh. The woman raised a brow. You said that stone's been in your family for generations, right? Any idea where it came from? No idea. Any idea what it does? No idea. Any idea why it's releasing mana? No idea. Is there anything you do know? You killed a lot of people before coming here. You don't need to be a fortune teller to know that. The stone in question that the two were talking about referred to the object that resonating with his grimoire. A grey stone that gave of a soft silvery glow leaking out pure unrefined mana that Grim found strangely comforting. So, see anything yet? Yes. She answered, concentrating solely on the crystal ball. It's murky but... I see. 3 figures, a man covered in shadows, a large tree, and a ritual. Wow, that told me absolutely nothing. I just told you what I saw, it's not really my concern if you understand it or not. Yeah, can I have the stone now? Rolling her eyes, the woman stood up and picked up a stone from the counter. Catch! Snatching it out of mid-air, Grimm took a closer look at it. Besides its color and the fact that it's leaking mana, it looks like an ordinary stone. Find anything? The fortune teller asked. Not yet. Seeing that he was just as lost as she was, the fortune teller smiled and kept checking his fortune. You're still doing that? Got nothing better to do? She shrugged. How about a game then? Pausing for a moment, she thought about his suggestion. What type of game? One that proves fortune-telling isn't absolute. Raising her eyes, she looked at him deeply and sighed. You do know I have divination magic, right? Yep, but my future isn't something a human like you could see. Didn't I already see your future with my fortune-telling? Nope, that sounded like some vague bullshit that you could have made up on the spot. What I propose is something much more concrete. Feeling challenged and slightly intrigued, the fortune teller nodded her head. What's the game? Smiles. Ever heard of rock paper scissors? Get it? Yeah. She nodded. After explaining how the game worked, Grimm told her how they'd play. She was allowed to use her divination magic whenever she wanted to see his next move. And to make the game more interesting, he added in the condition that every time one of them lost a round they'd have to remove a piece of clothing. I still don't get why we're playing this. Think about it this way, if you win then you'll prove that your magic is viable. But if I win, it proves that the future isn't as concrete as you thought. Why does it feel like you win no matter the outcome? Smiling at her comment, he formed his hand into a fist. Rock paper scissors. Divination magic, future sight. Throwing out their hands, the fortune teller suddenly smiled. I win. She said with a smirk on her face. Taking one of his boots off, he placed it to the side. To think the hero of commoners would be stripping in my shop, I wonder what your fans would say if they knew. She laughed. Throwing a condescending smile his way, the two threw the fists forward again. Divination magic, future sight. I win. The fortune teller yelled again and grinned in his direction. Removing another boot, the expression on his face remained neutral as he said again. You're really desperate for me to see you in the nude. Confident in her future sight, the fortune teller threw her hand forward again. Ha! IWI. Looking at her own fist and then at Grimm's, a look of confusion covered her face as she abruptly stopped her sentence. Rock. Slamming her hands on the table, the fortune teller's eyes trembled. How? I saw you throw paper. Strip. He smiled. I must have messed up the spell. There's no way my future sight could be tricked in a small game like this. Gritting her teeth, the fortune teller removed her hood to show off her enchanting face. Not bad. If only she was about 10 to 12 years older. A/N, MILF sect unite. Expecting him to be charmed by her appearance, a look of shock flashed across her face when she saw that not a single muscle on his face had twitched. This bastard. Rock paper scissors. Future sight. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Feeling like she had just been punched in the gut, the fortune teller stumbled back when she saw that her prediction had been wrong again. Impossible. Strip. Sitting around the table with a taunting smile smeared across his face, Grimm's aura seemed to have grown bigger as the shadows in the room seemed to consume all the light except the glow from the crystal ball. Strip. He repeated. Clenching her fists, the look in the fortune teller's eyes became serious as she slowly took out her golden tiara and sat back around the table. Ready. Rock paper scissors. How can this be? How are you doing this? At her wit's end, the two had been playing rock paper scissors for over 20 minutes now, and after her first two initial wins, she hadn't won a single match since. Who knows? He shrugged. Why not look into the future and tell me how I'm doing it? He teased. Clenching her fists tightly, she stared him down trying to figure out what was going on. I'm not sensing any mana fluctuations from him, it's clear that he's not using any magic to beat me. Strip. He suddenly said. Angered by the nonchalant expression on his face, the fortune teller removed one of the bangles on her wrists. Stop. Please stop. Oh? But weren't you confident in your divination magic? I was wrong. Please let me go. Down on her knees and bowing her head to him. The fortune teller was left in nothing but her undergarments with tears and snot covering her once beautiful face. Let you go. He chuckled. Why not use that magic you're so proud of to see whether I'll let you go or not? So, what did you see? You didn't let me go. Wow, I'm not even a fortune teller and even I knew that. He grinned. No sir Grim, please let me go. She prostrated herself before him. Resting his feet on her back, he let out a tired sigh. You already know how this is gonna end, so why drag this out longer than it needs to be? But I can't, if you see my naked then. Listen up whatever your name is, I honestly couldn't give a shit about seeing you naked. Are you hot? Yes. Would I smash? Without a second thought. But would I let you go? Hell no. I'm having way too much fun watching you squirm and try to figure out how I'm beating you. I'm not ready to give that up yet. Please. She sobbed. Smiling at her, he clenched his fist and shook it in front of her. Rock. Come on, the sooner we finish the sooner you can put your clothes back on. Paper. She whispered. Scissors. They both yelled in union. And as expected, Grim won again. No. Yes. Laughing at her drop in expression, Grim felt like he was on top of the world. While this may not be a fight, dominating someone in any circumstance was what he lived for. So panties or bra? Whoa. What's going on? After playing her one more time, Grim finally got her to remove her panties and got to see her in her full glory. Unfortunately that moment was short-lived as a weird magic circle seemed to manifest beneath them. Sniff, this is why I didn't want to get fully naked in front of you. What? What are you talking about? This magic circle. My mom set it up so that the first man who saw me naked would be bound to me. What? You don't mean it's a marriage contract? Creator's thoughts. Errata. Well shit. Chapter 116, The Contract. Marriage? Oh hell nah. You've got me all kinds of fucked up if you think I'm about to get married to some hoe-ass trick like you. What? Fuck. That. Shit. Biatch. Do you know who the fuck I am? I'm Grim. The motherfucking Grim. The motherfucking demon slayer Grim. The one and only true MILF hunter Grim. The bitch slapper Grim. The cheek clapper Grim. The no slacker Grim. The put you in a wheelchair after one night Grim. The fuck you 6 ways till Friday Grim. Do you understand? I will fucking mollywop your ass if you and your crusty ass mama even think about trying to trap me in some type of magical contract voodoo bullshit. You get me bitch? Cause that's who the fuck I am. Put some motherfucking respect on my name. Unable to stop, Grim kept throwing out words that he didn't fully understand but felt were appropriate to the situation. Like why would you even agree to play when you have a condition like this? Well. I didn't think I was gonna lose. She whispered. This cunt. Just as he was about to explode into a rage and most likely kill her as a result, an out-of-nowhere humming sound stopped him. Hum. Flying out of its holster, his grimoire suddenly flipped open and started glowing. What now? Still irate at the fact that he was about to get married, he was balancing on the edge of rationality. Hum. Resonating with his grimoire, the stone he got from the fortune teller suddenly started levitating in the air and slowly flew towards his grimoire. What the fuck? Once the two objects were close to each other, a flash of silver light broke out causing Grim and the fortune teller to shield their eyes. Ugh! By the time they looked back, the stone had seemingly vanished and the grimoire had returned to its holster. The hell was that? Breaking the silence, Grim turned towards the fortune teller looking for answers. I don't know. You don't know? Ha, ha, ha. Starting to feel uncomfortable by his laughter, a feeling of dread sprouted in her heart. Laughing like there was no tomorrow, Grim looked at the magic circle on the ground. Fuck this. Stop. The fortune teller suddenly screamed. If you leave the circle before the ceremony is finished you'll lose everything. Halting his steps, a dark aura burst out of Grim's body as he turned his head to the side and said. What did you just say? In a voice so deep that the fortune teller felt it was suffocating her. My mother designed it so that whoever left the circle would lose everything to the other person in the circle. Seeing that he wasn't responding, the fortune teller knew that she had to go into more detail. Look. On the back of your hand you should have a magical binding brand that looks like the magic circle on the floor. Raising his right hand, he saw a circular look tattoo that resembled the magic circle on the ground. I have one too. The fortune teller said, showing off the brand on her own hand. This is the physical manifestation of our marriage. It also acts as a transfer channel that connects us together. Connects us? He frowned. What exactly does it connect? Mana, magic type, life force, everything. Magic type. Opening his grimoire, he saw words forming on a page he had never seen before. Demon slaying divination magic. The hell? Wait. He suddenly released a horrifying amount killing intent. You have my magic? He asked slowly. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Having never faced such immense pressure before, the fortune teller was forced down to her knees. Looking at him now, the phantom image of a being cloaked in black carrying a scythe seemed to manifest behind his figure. What is that? Feeling her mouth suddenly dry up, beads of sweat started rolling down her face as her body started trembling in fear. Seeing her lose control of her bladder and leave a mess below her, Grimm's anger subsided slightly. When you said that I'd lose everything if I left this circle, what did you mean? Finding it hard to breathe let alone talk, Grimm had to lift some of the pressure off of her. Before the ceremony is done, the person who leaves the circle first of their own free will have everything they have go to other participant. Be more specific. He clenched his fists. If you leave now, you'll lose your magic, mana, life, and I'll gain them all. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. If you do anything that could threaten our marriage like cheating, you'll lose everything and I'll gain them all. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. As if an explosion had gone off, Grimm's mana started fluctuating in a wild and unstable manner. This is basically an early divorce. And one where I lose everything. Growing more and more unstable by the second, the air around the two started to quake. Gee Grimm. The fortune teller stuttered, having never felt such chaotic mana before. I've come so far. To think I'd be fucked over by a fucking marriage contract of all things. I won't allow it. I won't allow it. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. The fortune teller screamed. As he was drawing closer and closer to raging, something suddenly occurred to him. Raising his right hand, he looked at the brand and then back at the magic circle. As if something had suddenly clicked, a sly smile crept onto his face as he focused all his attention on the magic circle. What are you doing? The fortune teller screamed as she saw him walking out of the magic circle. Instead of answering, he kept looking forward and activated a spell. Breath of the Beast, Crazy Cutting. Slash. 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 Increasing the speed of the grey aura blades rotating around his body, as he walked forward the ground was completely torn up as the aura blades started cutting so fast that they practically became invisible to the naked eye. Wait. Stop. She yelled, seeing him step on the magic circle. But to her surprise, the part of the magic he stepped on seemed to vanish as if it was wiped away. What the? Grinning at the fact that his theory had worked, Grimm kept walking until he was fully outside the circle. Now then, let's get divorced on my terms. Creator's thoughts. Errata. Losing his virginity, creating orphans, getting married, and then divorced all in one night, what a life. Chapter 117, The Future's Looking Grim. Having erased part of the magic circle like erasing a mark on a whiteboard, Grimm looked at the fortune teller and came up with an ingenious method to reap benefits from this divorce without any drawbacks. Hat. He grinned, flaring up his magic power. What are you doing? The fortune teller's eyes went wide when she saw him start walking back towards the circle. Ignoring her and focusing on the task at hand, Grimm used Crazy Cutting to shave away at the parts that would negatively affect him, effectively reworking the contract to his benefit. It was just a shame that he didn't know how to write magical formulas, since he could have just rewritten the contract instead of just instinctively removing some words. Since the magic circle dictated that only those who left its area of effect of their own free will would lose everything to their partner, he was unable to push the fortune teller out, as the contract could backfire on him since she wasn't leaving of her own free will. But what if he used his beast magic to erase the parts of the contract that stated that? Would the effect vanish? Would he still be bound to the fortune teller? While he may not be able to read the words in the magic circle himself, one of his past lives seemed to be experienced in magic circle formulas. From that he was able to instinctively avoid the parts of the contract that specifically targeted him and his magic. Ignoring his screaming wife, he kept erasing more and more parts of the magic circle until he was thoroughly satisfied. That should do it. What have you done? The fortune teller screamed, feeling something change within the contract and the marriage brand on her hand. I'm having you pay alimony. He grinned. Ali, what? Before she could receive her answer, a large pulse of white magical energy burst out from the magic circle on the floor and lit up the entire room. My eyes! The fortune teller shrieked. Following the burst of magical energy, the magical circle on the floor started to reform itself back into a proper circular shape and not some weird blotted mess with holes in it. What the hell? Feeling a warm throbbing sensation on the back of their hands, both husband and wife looked down at the marriage brand signifying their marriage and saw that the mark had started to glow as it synced up to the new contract rules. I am possible. The fortune teller stuttered as a look of horror surfaced on her face. You changed the terms of the contract. Yep. He grinned and stuffed his hands in his pockets. Life's all about winning and losing, a divorce is no different. So you lost at rock paper scissors and marriage. This just ain't your day, is it? AI. She screamed and charged him. My ex is crazy. Never thought I'd ever say that. He laughed, seeing her rushing towards him. Right as she was about to scratch his face, the fortune teller suddenly found herself down on her knees and bleeding from her eyes, ears, and mouth while experiencing unimaginable pain. What is this? Unable to utter a sound due to the pain of opening her mouth, Grim held her by the chin and raised her head so that she was looking up at him and he was looking down on her. The previous contract stated that if you do anything that could jeopardize our marriage you would lose everything. But fear not. He joked. I erased the part about you losing everything and used some of the leftover parts to put you in a state of unimaginable pain. Of course this only a one-way deal though. He smirked. Looking up at him with tears of blood rolling down her face, an expression of rage covered her face. Ah, don't look like that. He laughed. It's not like you're losing too much. I only get to keep your divination magic, most of your mana, and made it so you're unable to fight, betray, or scheme against me lest you want to wind up in this painful situation every time. Oh? Why do you look so surprised? I told you that I only erased the part about you losing everything and making this a one-way deal. Oh. You're probably thinking that this shouldn't be possible, right? Realization dawned on him before it turned into a chuckle. It actually wasn't that hard. Since I couldn't replace the word marriage in the contract, I used my magic to cut the bond between me and the magic circle, making it so that I was no longer bound by the contract. That being said, I kept my link to you active. And since you're connected to both me and the magic circle, you have no choice but to abide by the terms of the contract. He laughed. A/N, people actually forget that Grim is intelligent, he just prefers to use violence to solve his problems. Listening to him explain how he had not only screwed her but also her mother's life work, the fortune teller didn't need to use her divination magic to see her future. By removing himself from the contract but keeping their bond active and making it a one-way exchange, he could receive all the benefits from her thanks to the branded mark on their hands while not being chained by the contract's rules. He had effectively turned her into his servant for life. She couldn't betray him, hurt him, or do anything remotely detrimental that could potentially harm him. He had turned her mother's only method of protecting her into a tool to restrict her. And to make matters even worse, he didn't even have to do any of this. Since he had the ability to erase the contract with his magic, he could have just done so and left. But no. He intentionally chose to rework the contract and force her into servitude just for the shits and giggles. Seeing that she had figured everything out, Grim couldn't help but think about just how great a night this was. He had not only lost his virginity and gained influence throughout the kingdom, he had also gotten himself another slave. Besides the combat-focused Nabra Silva, he now had one that could see the future to a degree. If used correctly, she could bring him countless benefits. As for how she lost their little game of rock paper scissors, Grim simply read her key the moment they both threw their hands forward and chose the correct hand sign to win. Like he said, his future wasn't something a human could see. Creator's thoughts. Errata. Late chapter. Hey guys, sorry for the late CHP. It was my birthday recently, turned 21, and I returned home from my student accommodation which is in a different city to celebrate with my family. One of the gifts I got was a new gaming laptop, wanted one for the past 7 years, and in my excitement I kind of threw all my time into it. Because of that I'm now behind in my coursework and am currently in panic mode. So yet, didn't really have much time to write and am starting to feel the heat. Updates will return to normal as soon as I get a better grasp on the situation. Chapter 118, Dawn of the Royal Knights. Grim. Why is she here? Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Dodging Nabra's onslaught of mist attacks with a serene expression plastered across his face, without looking back Grim took a moment to answer Asta's question. I'm asterisk bang. Asterisk trying something out. He managed to say whilst dodging another attack. He'll move to the right, try to interrupt his timing. Standing a bit away from the battlefield, Grim's ex-wife Serena the fortune teller used a magic communication tool to instruct Nabra on how she should fight. Hearing her words, the eldest daughter of the Silva household grit her teeth and took up a stance as she stretched her right arm out. Mist magic, solid mist clones. Asterisk poof. Asterisk. Spreading her mist outwards, 6 identical clones of Nabra stood before Grim with all their actions mimicking the original. Trap him! Serena screamed. Using her divination magic to read the future, she saw Grim moving to the side and informed Nabra of the best course of action. Heeding her commands, the grimoires of all 7 Nabras started glowing as a web of mist shot out at the calm-looking Grim. Not bad. While he wouldn't admit it, Grim was actually impressed by his slaves' synergy. By themselves they were pretty worthless, but when they combined their unique magic attributes together they were a pretty good team. If the 2 of them were on a team together during the Royal Knight examination, he had no doubt that they could have made it far as long as they didn't run into him, Langris, or Asta. Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk. Swiping his hand forward and using breath of wind, he blew away the oncoming webs of mist and neutralized all the mist sent his way. Damn it! This bastard's playing with us! Clenching her teeth tightly, Serena felt an overflow of rage surge up in her heart. A couple of days ago she was a simple fortune teller living her life the way she wanted to, and now she's been unwillingly turned into the slave of some sadistic magic knight with a lust for battle and domination. Hat! Grinning like a goddamn madman, the green glow around his body suddenly turned bright orange as he switched to breath of flames and blew across the battlefield using unknowing fire only to arrive in front of Nabra with his right arm cocked back. What the? Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Swinging forward without holding back in the slightest, an overwhelming sense of pressure rooted Nabra's feet to the ground as she watched his fist grow larger in her eyes and approach her face. Movie! Serena screamed into the communication device. Snapping out of her trance for a second, Nabra suddenly came back to her senses. It was just too bad that Grim's fist was mere centimeters away from her face. Bang! Landing a solid blow right in the middle of her eyes, he cancelled breath of flames and pulled his punch back slightly, causing the impact to be a lot lighter than what was initially intended. Though, that didn't mean that Nabra wasn't gonna suffer. While he may have removed his fiery attribute and held back on his beast-enhanced strength, there was no way a mage like Nabra who had never trained her body before would be capable of handling a punch from someone of Grim's calibre. Getting hit by Grim's fist, Nabra felt her brain rattle in her skull as the force behind his punch sent her sprawling backwards and caused her to do several unintentional backflips before finally crashing down heavily onto the ground and leaving a long scuff mark on the dirt. She'll be fine. I think. While everyone was gaping at the fact that Grim had just hit someone who was on his side, no one noticed his figure turn into a blur as he abruptly manifested in front of Serena. Hello. He smiled. Grabbing her wrist before she could jump back, the yellow-eyed black bull pulled her in close. You know what the problem with your magic is? Not waiting for the seer to answer, he carried on his explanation. Ignoring the fact that you have no offensive or defensive capabilities, the biggest problem with your magic is that if you're faced with something much faster than yourself, your magic become useless. Boom. As if hit in the gut by that revelation, Serena suddenly felt her knees go weak. Seeing the look of realization manifest itself on her face, a mocking smile adorned his own. You know what that means, right? Knowing that he was actually asking her this time, the fortune teller lowered her head and solemnly answered. Even if I use my magic to see you harm me, all I could do is watch. And why is that? He asked with a mocking expression. Clenching her fists, she did her best to hold back her anger. Because I'm not fast enough to stop you. Hearing her answer, the grin on his face widened. Exactly. Taking advantage of the weak, stepping on the dreams of others, only someone like Grim could indulge themselves in such acts while somehow still managing to remain friends with a pure-hearted person like Asta. Now then. He dusted off her shoulders and showed her an innocent smile far removed from the mocking one he had on earlier. Let me give you your assignments. Since he had gotten himself a free slave, Grimm would take advantage of that fact and use her completely. The first thing he wanted her to do was to escort Nabra to the hospital. Since Finral was still recovering from his fight with his little brother, Serena would have to use her carpet to fly the both of them there. The second thing he wanted her to do was to study up on support mages. If he was gonna make use of her divination magic in combat, she needed to know how to support mages during battles. The third and final task assigned to her was for her to find some magic items that could enhance her physical abilities. But since she had an entire shop filled with weird magical devices, it shouldn't be too difficult. A/N, if any of you have seen Bungo's Stray Dogs, then you know that Grimm is basically trying to turn her into an advanced version of Sakuna Shokoda. Watch her fly away with Nabra on her magic carpet, he couldn't help but wonder how Nozel would respond. Since she hadn't left the Silver Eagles, Nozel was still her captain and could formally submit a complaint against Grimm for hurting one of his subordinates. I'll deal with that when it comes. He shrugged. Yoast. Grimm. A female voice roared out from the inside of the Black Bull's base. Get your ass in here. In this world, there was only one woman capable of talking to him like that without fear of repercussion. Mirioliana. Creator's thoughts. Arata. You know, I was listening to Hollow Ichigo's speech about the king and the horse on YouTube earlier, and it made me realize that Grimm is the embodiment of what Hollow Ichigo was talking about. LOL, also managed to get some me time and write this chapter. I don't know when I'll be able to fully come back before my course ends this term, May 14th, but I'll try to sprinkle in some chapters whenever I get any free time. THX for your patience, guys. Chapter 119, Mirioliana Vermilion. It's been a while, Firestarter. Walking through the entrance with both hands in his pockets and a cocky smile hanging off his face, the ever-arrogant Grimm greeted the current leader of the Crimson Lions. HOH. She grinned seeing his figure. Did you think winning the Royal Knight's exam is enough for you to act arrogant in front of me? Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk. Adding effects to her words, the wild woman unleashed some of her fiery mana. Yawn. Taking a seat and placing his feet on top of the table, Grimm sent a provoking smile her way. Oh. Are you baring your fangs at me? She grinned. What if I am? Het. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk. Releasing his own fiery mana to contend with hers, Grimm felt the table threaten to erupt into flames as a hot wave of air blew across the room. Arg. Damn it. These two are releasing their magic power again. Covering her face from the sudden outburst of heat, Noelle and the others were forced to take a few steps back as both blue and orange flames clashed against the other. Just because you won the Royal Knight exam you think you have the balls to go against me? You're one brave kid, you know. Can't say I hate that about you though. Seeing the smile on her face, the blue flames around Grimm seemed to intensify as the two stared at each other. This woman. I want to dominate her. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Ramping his flames up to another level, the now standing Grimm was unable to hide his smile any longer. Whoa. Luck's eyes shone. What the hell? I use fire magic as well, but I'm nowhere near this strong. Magna cursed internally. Ha. Always ready to fight against me even when you know you can't win. You're one crazy guy. Can't win? Who decided that? What? Erg. Clenching his fists tightly, Grimm's mana started to fluctuate wildly as his aura grew bigger and bigger. Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk. Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk. Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk. Producing wave after wave of hot air, Grimm's hair started flapping wildly as objects in the base started catching fire. Wahahahahahaha. Mirioliana started laughing, raising her aura to his level. You're a riot kid. These two, they're gonna burn the base down. Forgetting about those around them, the two fire mages only had eyes for each other. Seeing Grimey's flame sword begin to manifest and Mirioliana's fire magic gathering around her fists, Noelle and Asta started panicking. But before the two were able to intervene, they were sent flying backwards by the sudden clash of fists between the two warriors. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Het. Mirioliana grinned along with the smirking Grimm. You haven't seen anything yet. Then show me. You got it. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Swapping fists with the other, the force from their collision sent shockwaves throughout the entire base. Asterisk swoosh. Asterisk. Asterisk swoosh. Asterisk. Asterisk swoosh. Asterisk. Dodging each other's blows, the two didn't relent in the least as flaming fists were thrown in all directions. Ha 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 ha. The two laughed in glee. Try this on for size. Calidus Brachium. No longer playing around, Mereoleona coated her fist in explosive flame magic that made Grim go oh shit. As he took the attack head on. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Sent flying through one of the base's walls, Grim materialized his sword in time so that it bore the majority of the force. Asterisk crash. Asterisk. Digging his feet into the soil of the earth, Grim used it to slow down as he prepared for Mereoleona's next attack. And just like he expected, the lioness appeared behind him with another Calidus Brachium ready. Ha! She screamed, throwing her fist towards his spine. Hat! He grinned before falling backwards and igniting and combusting some flames beneath his feet to shoot him backwards and into the air before Mereoleona's fist could touch his back. He dodged. Now only a couple of meters above her and in position that forced him to do a backflip, he swung his sword down and executed a breath of blue flames-empowered Rengoku. Ha! He yelled as a devastating beam of concentrated blue flames shot out of his sword and slammed into Mereoleona. Grin. Now you're starting to get it. Not worried in the slightest, the acting captain of the Crimson Lions turned around and without the slightest intention to back off or dodge, she drove her flame-covered fist right into the beam. Calidus Brachium! She screamed as her fist and the beam collided. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. As an earth-shattering explosion rung out, Grim was blown back by the impact with only one thought in his mind. I did it. I finally killed someone of captain level. Compared to his fight with her back in the volcano, Grim's obsession with beating her had grown to the point that for a short amount of time he focused solely on enhancing his flame magic. Right now, his fire magic was incomparable to his past self. A sudden laughter rang out. Feeling her key still being active, Grim couldn't help but curse under his breath. Swiping her hand forward, the dust cloud surrounded her body was swept to one side as her uninjured figure was revealed. Not bad, tiger, but you've still got a ways to go if you want to kill me. This woman, just how strong is she? A/N, really fucking strong. Since you managed to not only take my attack head on but also surprise me with that last attack of yours, I'll show you something special. What? Feeling his danger senses suddenly skyrocket, Grim felt his throat suddenly become dry as Mereoleona slow walked towards him with a smile smeared across her face. Watch closely, Grim, not many people have seen me do this and live to tell the tale. What is this? It feels like her mana is expanding around me. Before he was able to realize what was going on, Mereoleona's next words seemed to echo in his ears as she said the two words that he would never forget for the rest of his life. Mana Zone. Creator's thoughts. Errata. You managed to get a chapter in today. I also bring good news. All my coursework is in for mid-May, so I'll soon be back to my usual update schedule. Unless you're reading this past May 2021, then this message doesn't apply to you. But I'm hesitant in starting the Elf arc at the moment since I know I won't be able to update as fast as I want to. Woe is me and all that, lol. But hope you guys managed to find some enjoyment in this chapter. Fun fact, remember when I was complaining about Avatar a while back? Well, I wrote a couple of chapters for a Avatar FF I was thinking of doing once I finished my MHA and BCFFS. Have 10 CHPS stored up, and with the news of Avatar Studios, hopefully it'll be interesting when I release it to y'all. Chapter 120, Not One to Disappoint. Gyah. Being hit in all directions by a continuous stream of fiery blasts, Grim felt every inch of his body scream out in pain. Even with breath of blue flames enhancing his fire resistance, Mereoleona's flames still managed to singe him. Not to mention the force created from the attack itself. Getting hit by one Calidus Brachium was already dangerous enough, but getting hit by her Mana Zone, Calidus Brachium barrage was on an entirely different level. Boom. 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 Watching the orange light show from the comfort of their partly destroyed base, Asta and the others were unable to utter a word as their jaws had long since hit the ground. Even the usually positive Luck had nothing to say at the sight of his friend being pummeled. An omnidirectional attack that even the strongest magic knights would have trouble dealing with, let alone someone who's never seen Mana Zone before. Being able to last this long is already an achievement. But this is your limb. Don't fuck with me. Grimm's voice rang out from inside the barrage. What? Mereoleona was taken aback by his voice. While she may not be using the full extent of her power, the fact that he was able to respond despite getting hit in every direction was not something she thought possible for someone at his level. Being hit in every possible direction, Grimm felt like his body was on the brink of collapse. But even so, there's no way he'd let himself lose to someone who wasn't using their full power. Mana Zone. Omnidirectional attack. Achievement. Who gives a fuck about that? He screamed. You say that this is my limit. Then just watch me surpass it. And if that still isn't enough, then I'll surpass it again. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Just watch me, Mereoleona Vermilion. I'll surpass my limits and wipe that smug smile off that face of yours. This kid. That fire's still burning inside of him. Ha, ha, ha 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 ha. Excellent. She grinned. But talk's cheap. Show me that you have what it takes to stand on the same level as me. Same level. Grimm's pained voice sounded out again. Don't get it twisted, bitch. When this is all over, I'll be above you. Big words. Mereoleona smirked and crossed her arms. For some reason, whenever she ran into this boy she felt like he would break common sense. Boom. Boom. Listening to the sound of the attacks land against Grimm's defenseless body, the spectating black bulls couldn't help but cringe at the noise. Enough. Noel screamed. His body won't last at this rate. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Won't last. Mereoleona laughed without turning around. You can't even tell what's going on and you're telling me he won't last. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Can't tell what's going on. Confused by what she meant, Noel couldn't help but ask for an explanation. Hearing the question, our ever so lovable lioness showed off a devilish grin that showcased all her teeth. Listen closer. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Do you hear it? Now that she mentioned it, the blows against Grimm's body sounded different from earlier. I don't know how he's doing it, but he's striking back. What? But didn't you say it's a omnidirectional attack? Shrugging her shoulders, Mereoleona spoke her thoughts while keeping her eyes trained on the fiery explosions going off in the air. Maybe it's because I'm not using for my full strength and that's making my attack speed slower than it should be, but he's somehow matching my speed. It's almost like he knows when and where my attack will manifest and position himself there before it even arrives. He's truly something else. Key. Transparent world. Mana sensing. Demon slaying divination magic. With all four abilities used at once and Grimm pushing his body to the absolute limit, his reaction speed, precision and overall level of concentration reached a whole new frontier. With his passive ability accelerated growth added on top of all this, a new ability was born from this combination. One that merged the best parts of the transparent world, key, mana sensing and demon slaying divination magic into one. By blocking out the world around him, Grimm was able to achieve hyper-focus. Just like Mereoleona had said, due to her holding back on using Mana Zone to its full extent, her attacks weren't coming at Grimm all at once. While it was true that the attacks were omnidirectional in nature, there was a slight time lag between each blow. Although the lag wasn't exactly large, with Grimm utilizing hyper-focus he was able to take advantage of this small window in time to not only figure out where the next attack would come from, but to also accurately defend and counter back. I wonder if I should increase the speed. Looking on from the surface, Mereoleona was looking up at him with sparks in her eyes. Sharpening your fangs at. Not bad. While she wanted to push him even further, she had come here for a reason. Sighing to herself, she gradually erased her Mana Zone and saw a sweaty-looking Grimm staring down at her with a massive grin on his face. Huff huff. Told you, you can't beat me with some half-hearted attack. He managed to gloat through his heavy breathing. Fuck. My lungs feel like they're on fire. Congratulations, you're stronger than I thought. Ha, and don't you forget it. Saying the last part of his sentence quietly, Grimm's body started falling through as he lost consciousness. Seeing him fall, Mereoleona jumped into the air and snatched him from the sky. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Landing heavily on the ground was an unconscious Grimm sleeping in her arms. A look of tenderness briefly flashed across her face before vanishing just as quickly as it had arrived. What the hell happened here? Walking out of the destroyed wall with his trousers looking a it loose, a dumbfounded Yami appeared behind Asta and the others. But just as he was about to receive his answer, he saw Mereoleona clutching Grimm's body and put two and two together. Creator's thoughts. Errata. Managed to get another one out. Can't believe I finished it on the day the last BC episode comes out. Must be fate or something lol. Also Nema and Lilith though. Chapter 121, Ecstatic. Motherfucker. Waking up with a start, Grimm accidentally sat up too quickly and bumped heads with a googly-eyed Mimosa who was leaning over him. Ouch. She groaned, rubbing her forehead. Mimosa. Wait a second. Where am I? At. Realizing that he was awake, Mimosa couldn't help but yell Grimm. And pull him into a tight hug before quickly letting go due to feeling embarrassed. Grimm. Hearing Mimosa's voice, Asta, Noelle, and Luck quickly ran over to his side. Hearing all the commotion, Yuno and Klaus, who were discussing something in private, both raised their brows and saw the once unconscious Grimm sitting up. Seeing his friends running over, Grimm noticed that he was no longer at the Black Bull's HQ. That would explain why I'm sleeping on the floor and not a bed. Looking around the area that he was in, he realized that he and the others were in a spacious room surrounded by a large amount of magic knights from different squads. Who the hell are these guys? After being briefed on the events that took place after he had passed out, he learnt that Mereoleona had grabbed him, Luck, Noelle and Asta, proclaiming them as magic knights that passed the Royal Knight exam. So I lost to Mereoleona. Was that the only part that he took note of? The others all thought in union. Not sure how he would react to the news, Asta and the others took a small step back as they nodded. I see. He nodded. Then smiled. Then laughed. Then laughed with a scary tone. Grimm. Noelle called, unnerved by his response. You're not angry. Angry. Halting his laughter, he tilted his head and looked at her like she was an idiot. Are you kidding me? I not only managed to force her to use a whole new magic technique, meaning her older methods no longer work, I even fucking countered it. I'm fucking ecstatic. A/N, even when getting his ass kicked, Grimm somehow still sees it as him coming out on top. I'm jealous of that mentality. Clenches fists and grins. I'm getting closer and closer to that bitch's level. Recalling the technique she used to beat him, the smile on his face grew wider as he was finally starting to see the limits of her power. 1 year. If I keep improving at the rate I'm going, I'll have totally surpassed her in 1 year. A/N, that's only if her power doesn't grow for 1 whole year. Trembling with excitement at the thought of forcing that lioness down on her knees, Grimm was having trouble controlling his mana as the other magic knights around them started growing uncomfortable and moving away. But since Asta couldn't sense mana, he stuck close and went over some other things that had happened on the way over. Someone else from the Black Bulls made it in. That's what she said. Asta nodded. A/N, Michael Scott, anyone. Now if this was a normal situation, Grimm would be itching to find out who this mysterious person was who passed the entrance exam. But since he couldn't get the defeated look of Mereoleona out of his head, he just brushed it off and started daydreaming of how he would crush her. Jumping into their conversation, Noelle threw in her 2 cents. Who do you think it could be? Finral maybe. Asta scratched his head thinking of other Black Bulls. Finral. Isn't he still in hospital after getting his shit rocked by his brother? A/N, I don't even know if Grimm has any respect for Finral. While he was busy gathering his thoughts, he noticed that the surrounding magic knights were throwing several glances his way while also maintaining a certain amount of distance. I think they're still scared of you. Mimosa said, noticing the direction he was looking in. Scared of me? Seeing that he was somewhat confused, her ears went bright red as she said. The Royal Knights exam. Royal Knights exam flashback. That sounds about right. He nodded, no longer giving the background characters any more attention. Just as he was about to go back to daydreaming, the sound of Mereoleona's voice interrupted him. Listen up, you no good weaklings. Hey! Everyone's attention was drawn to the stage. I, Miriolina Vermilion, have been appointed captain of the Royal Knights. For all of you who are standing here right now, you have been selected to become Royal Knights. You don't have the right to refuse. From this point onwards until the eye of the midnight sun have been wiped out, you will entrust your lives to me. Don't have the right? Ha! That obviously wasn't directed at me. Laughing to himself, Grimm finally made it onto his feet, and with fire in his eyes he stared down the lioness, who felt his gaze burn into her. Oh! She looked confused for a moment before spotting him. Grins. He's awake. Forgetting the next part of her speech, every magic knight started sweating as they felt the temperature around them sharply rise. Seeing Grimm and Miriolina staring at each other, Noelle really wanted to hit them. Why do these two have to do this every time they see each other? Trying to cool herself down with water magic, imagine the surprise on her face when she saw her water visibly turn into steam the moment it was conjured. Are you kidding me? While Noelle was growing frustrated at Grimm and Miriolina, a look of infatuation was spread across Mimosa's face as she clung close to Grimm despite the heat. His domineering, no fucks giving attitude really made her want to submit and watch others bow to him. It was a side of her that she was just beginning to understand. Unknown to her, all the women of nobility seemed to possess this submissive trait. Just as the two fire users were about to raise the temperature up even more, a sudden fluctuation of unknown yet familiar mana caught their attention. Both Grimm and Miriolina looked upwards in union. Sorry I'm late. A screaming man yelled as he fell from the sky. Annoyed that he was interrupting her and Grimm's contest, Miriolina flicked her hand in his direction and summoned a flame pillar. Whoa whoa whoa! Panicking slightly, the falling man created a magic circle that seemed to absorb some of the magic and used it to safely land in front of Asta and the others. It's Xerx! Asta yelled, seeing him. It's not Xerx, you idiot! The masked man grinned and looked at them. It's Zora. Zora, ideal of the Black Bulls. Chapter 122, New Robes. Would you guys shut the hell up? Miriolina screamed at Zora and the rest of the Black Bulls, causing them to apologize and stand at attention. Calm down, kitty, no need to get so worked up. Grimm smirked, not caring about the looks the surrounding magic knights were giving him. Gasp! What did you just say? Turning her attention back onto Grimm, Miriolina's gaze threatened to burn a hole through him. I don't repeat myself. Meeting her gaze head-on, the two glared at each other until Miriolina broke eye contact. I'll deal with you once this is over. She scoffed, unable to completely hide her smile. Right back at ye. Grimm grinned back, satisfied. Even Miss Vermilion didn't dare face him. I've never heard of her backing down before. What kind of monster is he? Hearing all the whispers around him, Miriolina couldn't help but frown while the smile on Grimm's face grew wider. Silence, fools! She roared, instantly shutting everyone up. Right now you'll be receiving royal knight robes that are highly resistant to attack magic. Now line up like good little boys and girls and put them on immediately. Yes, ma'am. They saluted and quickly formed a line. Whistle. Throwing his hands into his pockets, Grimm closed his eyes and started walking to the front of the line, not caring about the people ahead of him. Hey, you can't just... Opens eye. Kaya. Gripping his chest tightly, the magic knight who tried to argue back found himself on his knees as Grimm's killing intent overwhelmed him. Finding it harder and harder to breathe, the veins in the man's eyes started to become more and more visible as his eyeballs started to pop out of their sockets. Did someone say something? Asterisk thud. Asterisk. Fainting from the lack of air, the man landed face first into the concrete. Seeing the man's current position and hearing Grimm's question, every other magic knight quickly shook their heads and went back to minding their own business. Thought so. Closing his eye again, he continued his journey to the front of the line. Watching him do that, Asta and the others were thankful that he was on their side. The other magic knights, on the other hand, were sweating bullets. If he was like that to people he was supposed to see as his comrades, what would he do to the people he viewed as his enemies? Collective shudder. Seriously, how are you guys friends with this guy? Zora asked after witnessing Grimm's dominating presence. I know, isn't he amazing? Mimosa sighed in an almost dreamlike state. Did he do something amazing? Asta asked, looking around confused. Didn't you just see what he did to that guy? Zora pointed at the unconscious magic knight. Oh. Was that something amazing? What? You think that's normal? Didn't seem that amazing. Luck chimed in. Just Grim being Grim. Klaus nodded. I'm more surprised at the fact that he didn't cripple him. Yet. Noel agreed. He didn't even pull his sword out or stab the guy, maybe he's sick or something. I think he's just maturing. Added, which was weird. From what I know, if this was the past he would have beaten that guy within an inch of his life. Maybe we're seeing some growth in him. Maybe. Seeing everyone nod and talk about Grim crippling and maiming a guy in such a nonchalant manner, Zora couldn't believe his ears. While he had seen Grim's actions and attitude during the tournament, he thought he had only acted like that due to the fact that he was fighting in a match. Looking down at his magic knight robe and then looking at the same robe on Grim's figure, a single sentence ran through his mind. What the hell kind of people have I gotten myself involved with? A/N, the best. After getting changed, Grim and the rest of the magic knights now dressed in their royal knight garb stood before a grinning Mirioliana. Alright. Now that you've finished changing, you can now proudly call yourselves royal knights. Who? This is the greatest moment of my life. I made it, Mom. Listening to the cheers going on around him and asked his complaints about his being so short. Grim couldn't help but wonder just how magic resistant this robe truly was. Breath of the beast. Ripping noise. Oh. What the hell, Grim? Noel screamed, seeing his robe get shredded. What? It's not my fault this cheap material could withstand me using one of my weakest spells. Cool. I wanna try. Luck's eyes shone as he gathered a ball of lightning in his hand and was about to press it against his chest. Don't even think about it. Mirioliana's voice reverberated out as she glared down at Luck from the stage. This doesn't feel right. Slowly levitating off the ground, Grim started to float upwards until he was high enough to look down on Mirioliana. That's better. Stare. Stare. What the hell is wrong with these two? Zora couldn't help but ask and look to the others for answers. This is like the 5th time they've just gone quiet and glared at each other. Yet. Even we don't know anymore. Noel answered honestly. Ahem. Someone coughed behind Mirioliana. A/N, Corona. If you don't mind, Miss Vermilion, could you please introduce us? Annoyed that someone was interrupting her glaring contest with Grim again, Mirioliana groaned and turned to look at the two people standing behind her. Sighing loudly, she turned back to face the audience. Due to the usefulness of their magics, we'll be joined by Sirentium and Cobb Portaport. Who? Grim had no idea who these people were. A/N, Sirentium is the rock mage who got his shit rocked by the first dark disciple when they invaded the Golden Dawn, don't know if that memorable or not. Cobb is the spatial mage who transported everyone to the tournament stage during the Royal Knight exam. Not really memorable. Continuing on, Mirioliana introduced the last person planning to join them. And last but not least, we'll be joined by Braided Bangs. Grim gasped, seeing Nozel Silva walk up next to Mirioliana. Hearing that ridiculous name once again, the vein on his forehead started throbbing violently as he looked up and saw Grim staring down at him with a mocking grin on his face. So. How's your sister doing? You haven't seen her much, right? Want me to tell you where she's been and what she's been doing? I bet you'd be really interested. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Unleashing a shitload of mana from his body, Nozel's eyes turned scary as he looked Grim dead in the eyes and said. I will kill you. Ha, you will definitely try. Enough. Mirioliana roared and stepped in, forcing Nozel to take a step back. I don't care what kind of problems you two have, but this is not the time. A/N, someone sounds jealous, lol. And you, Grim? Since we don't have enough time or materials to make a new robe, you're gonna have to wear that one. Shrugs. Fine by me, it looks better like this anyway. A/N, imagine the Royal Knight robe equivalent to Ichigo's clothes when he uses his Bankai. Original Bankai pre-1000-year Blood War. Good. She nodded and faced everyone else again and took a deep breath. Alright, listen up. You should know this by now, but we will not accept anything less than victory. So any of you little shits who don't measure up to my standards. Grins, I'll kill you myself. Gulp. For the glory of the Clover Kingdom. For the glory of the Clover Kingdom. Everyone but Grim repeated in union. That's more like it. Now let's go save our kingdom. Chapter 123, Assaulting the Base. And there it is, the Eye of the Midnight Sun's secret base. Standing with Mirioliana and the other royal knights, Grim stood in his tattered royal knight robe staring up at the floating hideout that just so happened to be surrounded by other floating rocks in some weird misty valley. So we just have to blast that thing out of the sky then we win? How boring. Ha! Mereoleona laughed and walked up next to him much to the annoyance of the Silver Eagle's captain. If only it were that simple. Ain't it though? Grinning at him, she walked ahead and started speaking to everyone. Listen up idiots. The Eye of the Midnight Sun have stationed their base in the middle of one of the grand magic zones. Meaning that our magic will be affected in some weird ways unless we make it inside the base. On top of that we can't afford to alert them or else they will use their magic to hide the base amongst the other floating rocks and disappear somewheres in the mist. Tuning this next part out, Grim closed his eyes and used the newly learned hyper-focus to scan their surroundings. Even if the grand magic zone was some weird mana disruptor, hyper-focus sensed more than mana. It sensed life itself. HOH. Feeling a familiar aura radiating from the inside of the base, Grim couldn't conceal the smile on his face as the image of the last member of the Third Eye flashed through his mind. Yami stole my prey when he killed that horny despair-loving freak in Discount Atlantis, but it looks like this one's all mine. So that's how it is. Mereoleona nodded after looking at the replica of the enemy base made by the rock mage. Alright. We'll split into 5 separate teams and infiltrate the base while our spatial mage stays out here on standby. Fine by me. Zora muttered. As long as I'm not on a team with the Psycho or the Shorty I don't mind teaming up. Who you calling Shorty? Asta yelled. And of course the Psycho he was referring to was none other than the boy who used an exam as an excuse to end the careers of several magic knights in some of the most brutal methods the kingdom had ever seen. Shut up. Mereoleona quietened them down. You two morons will be coming with me. What? You heard me. You two are part of my squad now. Your squad? Zora looked at her in a mocking manner. You sure you're alright teaming up with 2 commoners, Miss Royalty? Het. Who gives a damn about that? At the end of the day everything comes down to whether you're weak or strong. You two made it this far because you're strong, right? You better not disappoint. Yes ma'am. Asta saluted. And Grim. I know, I'm on your team too. He interrupted, guessing what she wanted to say. No. She shook her head and looked at the floating fortress before her eyes focused back on him. With the way you fight, putting you on a team might actually slow you down compared to what you could do by yourself. You mean? Yet. She grinned. Go wild. Inside the base. Screams. What is this guy? We can't stop him. He's slaughtering us. Keep calm. He's just one purse. Asterisk swing. Asterisk. Thud. Captain. Rengoku. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Arg. As fire and smoke filled the lower section of the Eye of the Midnight Sun's base of operations, the ear-piercing screams of the Eye of the Midnight Sun mages rang out as Grim strolled through, leaving behind death and destruction in his wake. Stay away. Falling on her ass and scurrying backwards, a wind mage looked at the blood-covered Grim walking towards her with terror filling her eyes. Oh? Well, isn't this familiar? Grim smiled innocently, noticing that the mage was of the wind attribute. Remembering back to the time when the Eye of the Midnight Sun attacked the capital and how he gained breath of wind, the sword in his hand dematerialized as a soft green glow coated his body. Keeping that innocent smile on his face, the killing intent oozing out of Grim's body seemed to explode as a violent torrent of wind started radiating off him and tore up all the escaping mages until only the 2 of them were left. Hearing the screams of her fellow comrades being ripped to shreds by Grim's wind, the wind mage felt her heart stop as she looked down and saw a glowing green blade pierce the area just beneath her navel and into her womb. Ah! Ah! Arg! Asterisk bang! Asterisk! Grabbing her by the face and lifting her up before she had the time to scream, Grim used his breath of the beast-enhanced base strength to break her jaw by crushing it with the hand he used to pick her up. SHHH! He hushed her. Feeling her eyes water from the agonizing pain, as the woman stared into the yellow eyes of this young boy, all she could think was, "He's the devil." Yet. He smiled. There it is, the look of fear, confusion, and absolute despair. How intoxicating! The woman groaned. As much as I would like to stay and play with you for a bit longer, there's someone up ahead that deserves my attention a lot more than you do. Seeing her eyes turn slightly hollow, Grim sighed. Don't look at me like that, this ain't personal. I'm just doing the same as you Midnight Sun guys. Someone from the Clover Kingdom hurt you in the past, right? That's why you want revenge on the kingdom and will ultimately involve the innocent civilians to achieve that goal. I get it, I really do. You see, just like you, I was hurt by someone from your organization. That person just so happened to also use wind magic like you. So trust me, this really isn't personal. You just so happen to be wearing the same type of robes and use the same kind of magic as that person. You might as well call this a practice run for when I run into that person again. So no hard feelings, right? Oh, and as for piercing your womb. Well, that was just to cause maximum trauma. If you by some miracle manage to survive this whole ordeal, I want you to have something to remember me by. And it also stops you from having children who will try to hunt me down to avenge you. Not that I mind, but considering how easy it was to beat you, I don't have any expectations for your offspring. And besides, stepping on too many bugs would get my shoes dirty. Well, it's about time I get going, people to kill and bases to burn, you know. Pulling his blade out from her body, he dropped her on the ground and left her to bleed out. Thud. Whistling to himself, he dematerialized his wind sword and headed towards the last of the third eye, the copy matriarch. Creator's thoughts. Errata. Hi guys, I know it's been a while since my last update, mostly due to uni, but I finally managed to release this chapter. So a lot has happened since then, most notably the death of my grandfather. Not gonna lie, it hit my hard. I couldn't even go back to uni to finish my practical work due to helping out my family members and planning a trip out of the country so I can attend to some legal business. And since this whole COVID thing is going on, his death certificate is taking a while to be made. This is problematic for me because without it I can't apply for a coursework extension, meaning that I might have failed uni. Sorry for the depressing talk, just thought that I owed you guys an explanation for any drop in quality in my writing. I try to write grim as energetic/savage as possible. But my current state of mind is not in the best place. So yeah, I'll try not to let it affect my writing, but I probably won't be able to write as impactful for a little while. But on a lighter note, it's a double chapter release. Chapter 124, Toy. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Inside the base, a yawning Rhea awoke to the sound of several explosions going off in the distance. Yawn, looks like trouble's come knocking. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but I guess I should go and deal wi. Asterisk boom. Before he could finish his sentence, Rhea felt a tremendous amount of mana approaching him from one of the nearby entrances. I guess I won't be going anywhere for the time being. Crack. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Oh ho. Using fire magic to explode the wall in front of him, out from the dust came a smiling Grim, hold a glowing orange sword in one hand and the dismembered head of a Midnight Sun mage in the other. Since he already knew Rhea's location from scanning the outside of the base with hyper-focus, he kept blowing holes in the base's walls until he finally arrived here. Yo! He smiled, switching to Breath of Wind to wisp away all the smoke and dust that had accumulated. It's you. Rhea frowned, remembering this boy from the time he, Veto and Fana went to save Patry from Yami. You seem to have taken care of a couple of our guys, he said, noticing the severed head in Grim's hand. Hey? Oh. Chucks head away and grins. You know what they say, kill for yourself and you're a murderer, kill for your family and you're a victim, kill for your country and you're a hero. And let's just say, I've been acting pretty fucking heroic on my way here. Seriously? You're one crazy kid. Ha. Jumping down from the hole, he floated down until he was standing directly opposite Rhea. Wanna hear a secret? Sure. Rhea shrugged. I've got time. I don't act crazy, I actually am crazy. I just act normal from time to time. Only thing that stops me from slaughtering everyone around me, to be honest. That's why I love times like these when I'm allowed to go wild. I can be my true self. Using his passive lie detector ability, Rhea couldn't help but feel perplexed. That's nice and all, but why tell me? Because grins, you won't be telling anyone else. What do you Maya? Breath of blue flames, first form, Grim style unknowing fire. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Turning into a blur of glowing blue flames, Grim speed blitzed the mid-sentence Rhea and grabbed him by the face. What the hell? Rengoku. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Feeling the hand on his face suddenly heat up, Rhea's eyes went wide as a blast of concentrated blue flames burst from Grim's hand. Asterisk swoosh. Asterisk. Asterisk bang. Asterisk. Sent hurtling back at a speed that threatened to break the sound barrier, Rya's body was slammed into the back wall as an explosion of dust burst out from the impact. TCH. Imitation magic, healing ray of light. Cracking his neck, Rya stood up from the hole his body had made in the wall. Seriously, what the hell happened to this kid? A couple of months ago he could barely even follow the battle between the Third Eye and the Black Bull's captain. Now he's fast enough to catch me off guard? Even with that mana amount, this level of growth is insane. Yo, you still kicking? I want to play a bit more. Grimm's voice carried its way to his ears. Play. You're one interesting kid. I've heard. Now get your ass down here, I haven't finished breaking you yet. Chuckling to himself, Rya complied and lowered himself down from the hole. You're really treating me like a toy, hey? Don't worry, I make sure to get the most out my toys before they break. Is that so? Well, sorry to say, but this toy fights back. While Grimm faced off against the last member of the Third Eye, the rest of the Royal Knights were busy fighting their own battles. As they were mowing down multiple Eye of the Midnight Sun mages in front of them, Zora came to an abrupt stop. Did you feel that? He looked at Mereoleona. Yeah. She grinned and punched an enemy mage in the face. He's having fun. Confused by what they talking about, Asta, who couldn't sense mana, started asking for answers. Feel what? Did something happen? That psycho friend of yours seems to be fighting someone pretty strong. What? Asta panicked. Where is he? He probably needs our help. Calm down, kid. Mereoleona hushed him as she dodged a ball of lightning and started throwing her fists forward. You know why I let that guy go by himself instead of joining a team? Because he's strong. No. She shook her head. The leader of the Silver Eagles is strong, but I wouldn't let him go alone. Now then you mention it, it is a bit weird that you let someone like Grimm go by himself but not a captain like Noel's brother. Nodding her head, she continued to fight while explaining her reasoning for letting Grimm go alone. Even the seemingly uncaring Zora paid attention. When I look at that kid, do you know what I see? Shakes heads. I see a fire bright enough to light the way for the future of the Clover Kingdom. Are you sure we're talking about the same guy? Zora asked suspiciously. Ignoring him, she continued. But while I see that he could become the fire that lights our way, he is also capable of becoming the fire that destroys everything in his way. Including his teammates. Realizing what she meant, a look of realization flashed across Zora's face. You mean? I didn't put anyone on his team because they would slow him down, I didn't put anyone on his team because I didn't want anyone dying by getting caught up in his rampage. Asterisk flash. Asterisk. Making use of the light magic he had copied, Rya's figure disappeared and reappeared in front of a motionless Grimm. It's over. Asterisk swoosh. Asterisk. Switching to Yami's katana, he ruthlessly swung the blade at Grimm's neck. Die. Imitating magic, dark cloaked black blade. Asterisk swoosh. Asterisk. Swinging the dark magic covered katana, a look of shock spread through Rya's face by Grimm's next actions. What? He dodged. Ducking beneath the swing, Grimm's fist started burning with blue flames as he drove it up straight into Rya's gut with enough force to throw him backwards. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Kaya. Feeling his eyes bulge out from the amount of strength packed into that punch, Rya couldn't help but curse in his head. What the actual hell? Since when was he capable of react to speeds faster than light? Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk. Not done with him yet, Grimm used his enhanced version of Unnoig Fire to charge him. Using Healing Ray of Light to heal himself while being flung backwards, Rya went on the offensive. Imitation magic, Light Sword of Judgment. Creating multiple shards of light with 4 lines of light going through each shard, he launched them at the approaching Grimm. Let's see you deal with multiple attacks that move at the speed of light. Seeing the numerous number of light shards being created by Rya, the smile on Grimm's face grew even larger as he pushed his hyper-focus to the limit and changed magic type. Breath of Water, 10th form, Constant Flux. Glowing with a gentle blue light, a blue water dragon flew out of Grimm's blade. But instead of shooting off and attacking Rya, the dragon returned to the blade, causing Grimm's entire demeanor to change. Normally Grimm gives off a calm feeling when using Breath of Water, but with him holding the power of the water dragon within, that draconic oppression that came with the dragon's might exploded out of his body as both his body and blade moved like a raging ocean, slashing apart every shard heading his way. A/N, now that I think about it, it's kinda like when Tanjiro used the 10th form against Rui lol. Creator's thoughts. Errata. Don't you think Grimm's personality seems more in line with the Dark Triad than the Clover Kids? Grimm and Dante equals both driven by their nature. Grimm and Zenon equals don't care who they have to hurt to win. Grimm and Vanica equals both crave strong fighters to crush. Really can't wait to get to that arc. Chapter 125, Imitation. Something ain't right about this kid. Watching Grimm break through his barrage of light shards, Ryu was forced to continuously retreat and hit him from various directions. Unfortunately, no matter which direction the attack came from, Grimm was able to easily defend against it. It's not like he's even that fast or strong, so why is it that I can't land a hit on him? Oi! Grimm's voice made its way to his ears after he finished destroying the light shards. Is this all you have? Because if it is, you might as well let me kill you now. It'll be a lot better than the alternative. HOH, you're already talking like you've already won. Hey? The outcome of this fight was decided the moment I stepped in the room. You sure are arrogant for a human. Ugh, dude, don't bring race into this. If you're weak, you're weak. Don't try to cower behind the race card. And don't assume my race, you bigot. What? Rengoku. Shit. Imitation magic, Salamander's breath. Forming behind him, a fiery red dragon-like creature manifested itself and blew a stream of fire towards the beam approaching him. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. As the two collided, they engaged in a beam struggle as both seemed to be evenly matched. He's capable of contending with the salamander. Just how strong has this boy become? Watching all this happen from his location, Grimm sighed. I beat the real salamander ages ago, what makes you think I'd lose against a knockoff? Ages ago. Don't tell me he's the one who beat Fana. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Suddenly increasing the power of his Rengoku, Grimm's beam shot through the salamander, causing it to explode. Ryu shielded himself from the explosion. But what he should have done was watch out from Grimm's next action. Stab. Hey! Feeling a tingling sensation in his chest, he looked down to see the tip of a jagged grey sword poking out of chest. Turning his head to the side slightly, he saw Grimm standing behind him with an outstretched hand holding onto the blade's hilt. Yo! He smiled. Cough cough. What the hell are you? The guy who's currently fucking you up. Seeing him cough up a mouthful of blood, Grimm began twisting the blade. You gonna do that thing where you grow that freaky third eye, right? That pink-haired chick did it, and I heard the despair fucker did it before Yami graced him with his new spell. Cough, you don't know who you're facing. I'd say the same to you. You know what, I'll make things easier for you. Grabbing his hand, Grimm forced him to touch the cover of his grimoire. You copied Yami's spells after touching his grimoire, right? Well, this should make things more interesting now. A/N, Grimm pulling a Vegeta. Removing his blade out from Ryu's back, which caused him to groan while some blood splattered out, Grimm floated down and waited for him to heal himself. Using the healing spell he copied from Patry, it took a little while until he had fully recovered. You ready for round 2? Grimm called. But instead of answering him, Ryu directly activated his third eye. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Feeling the sudden increase of mana pouring out from him, Grimm switched to Breath of the Beast and waited for him to attack. I don't know what you are, but letting me heal up was your worst mistake. Funny, I don't make mistakes. Asterisk flash. Asterisk. Flashing in front of him again with light magic, blue flames burst out of his hands as a burning blue blade manifested high into the air. Imitation magic, Breath of Blue Flames, Rengoku. Breath of Water, 10th form, Constant Flux. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. As the two blades of opposing elements clashed with each other, both fighters were forced to separate as they were both sent sprawling backwards. Now that's what I'm talking about. Grimm laughed, regaining his footing. Breath of Blue Flames, first form, Grimm style unknowing fire. Flashing forward and leaving behind a trail of blue flames, Grimm caught up to Ryu and slashed at his neck. Asterisk swoosh. Asterisk. Sensing the intent behind the attack, Ryu used his light magic to teleport into the air and behind Grimm. Imitation magic, Breath of Water, Constant Flux. Unleashing a water dragon out from his blade, it let out an ear-piercing roar as it soared down from the sky and towards Grimm. Watching its mouth open wide, Grimm felt his heart rate increase as he was finally starting to have some fun. Asterisk bang! Asterisk! Jumping to the side, the dragon collided with the ground as Grimm changed styles once again and unleashed 8 long-ranged attacks upwards by using 8 layered mist. Crap! Asterisk bang! Asterisk! Asterisk bang! Asterisk! Asterisk bang! Asterisk! Using light magic to evade the mist blades, Ryu was so busy avoiding them to notice that Grimm had flown up and intercepted him until it was too late. Surprise motherfucker! What? Coating his hand with rock via the use of Breath of Stone, Ryu found himself being launched higher into the air as Grimm hit him with a jaw-breaking uppercut. Asterisk bang! Asterisk! Not willing to let him go, before he managed to make it too far, Grimm grabbed on his ascending leg and using his Breath of the Beast base, he flung him down onto the ground so hard that his body somehow managed to bounce up while the several spider-like cracks spread throughout the surface. TCH. Gritting what little teeth he had left, Ryu used his light healing magic for the umpteenth time. He couldn't understand what was happening. How was he losing so badly to such a young kid? This guy wasn't even overwhelming him with his magic. It was more like his combat senses were so sensitive that he could grasp every opportunity to take advantage of his flaws. Having had enough of this, Ryu pushed his third eye to the limit as he unleashed a torrent of unknown lightning upwards at the floating Grimm. Lightning! After not having his Breath of Thunder progress for several months due to him not finding someone capable of dealing enough damage to him, the sight of a third eye empower Ryu using lightning was too good of an opportunity to pass. Lowering his defenses, Grimm opened his arms wide as he welcomed the attack. Come to Papa! Arg! He screamed as this third eye enhanced lightning sent a shock through his system. Finally got him! Unfortunately this scream didn't last long as Grimm's grimoire started glowing yellow with sparks of electricity dancing around it. A/N, OMFG. It's coming guys! What the? Breath of Thunder, 5th form modified, Heat Lightning. A/N, JK. Asterisk bang! Asterisk. Unable to even see what had happened to him, a sharp burning pain exploded through his chest as the smell of burnt flesh wafted into his nose. By the time the smoke cleared, he saw that Grimm was holding a yellow sword with snake-like lightning slithering around the blade. On the other hand, his chest had been completely charred black as he felt an unknown force wreaking havoc in his body. What was that spell? It not only damaged the outside my body, it also seemed to burrow inside my body and is trying to destroy it from the inside. Heat Lighting, originally meant to be a spell that would shoot out a powerful ranged electrified sword slash upwards that burns the flesh of anyone it hits. In the moment that Grimm attained it, due to the stimulation of the battle and his position, he subconsciously modified the spell so that he could bypass the upwards attack restriction and attack an opponent no matter the angle. Floating high in the air, Grimm reveled in the new spell as he felt the battle's climax quickly approaching. Throughout this entire fight, Ryu wasn't able to land any proper hits on him thanks to his new ability Hyper Focus. While it didn't improve his attack speed or his damage out, he had to admit that it brought his combat abilities to a whole new stage. And while he might not be confident in beating Mirioliana now, he could now say that the time it would take to beat her had shortened considerably. Standing on the ground after healing his chest wound and expelling the lightning magic out from his body, Ryu knew that if he dragged this battle out any longer it would only get worse for himself.
Thanks for listening.